Welcome back to another video. Obviously today we're going to be talking about Shujinko and Kang together. First of all, I know, look at how long the video is. I know, yes. But all I ask of you, please drop a like on this video. This video took a long time. It took me multiple weeks. Literally working day after day trying to get this video out in a timely manner. And also a reason to drop a like on the video is I can guarantee you that there is no better information on the entire internet in a video format that explains Shujinko the cameo for MK1 and Kang as a whole on my entire channel. Also, when you drop a like on the video, it also helps with the YouTube algorithm a little bit. So, you know, thank you for doing that in advance. It just helps spread my content to people that haven't found my content yet. And if you're new here and you learned something new with this video, consider dropping a sub. As of right now, I've completed every single cameo with Kang, and in a very not too distant future I will be covering another main character with all the other cameos. There is a poll up right now on my channel. I'm going to put it up on screen. You guys can go ahead, I'll put it in the description below as well, so you guys can go vote on the character that you guys want to see next. Also, when you sub to me, it helps me reach my goal to reach 500 subs. When we reach 500 subs, listen, so many more things can happen with the channel. Right now I am extremely restricted in what I can do, but yeah, I thank you in advance for subbing to the channel if you do. Also, if you have any questions regarding my video production, or you have a question about editing videos for maybe your own channel, or like a school project or something, or anything to do related to Mortal Kombat 1, feel free to ask me in the comments below. I will guarantee to answer your question within the day. Also, I want to mention, obviously the length of this video is quite long, so you don't have to watch the whole video, but if you do, first of all, thank you very much, and second of all, there is probably nobody on this entire earth that is going to match your knowledge when it comes to this cameo. That is for sure. First of all, I want to say that this video is going to cover all the base game characters of the game, which means all the characters that were on the game since day one on launch day, which is on the top row from Kitana to Geras, and from on the bottom row from Shang Tsung to Havik. I have not covered the Combat Pack 1 characters in this video. However, within 2 or 3 weeks of this video's, actually, I'm waiting for Takeda to release. At this current moment, I'm waiting for him to release, and then I'll make that video so you guys have information on all the Combat Pack 1 characters with Shujinko. Also, before we get into things, I want to say that everything is timestamped on this video. There's timestamps in the descriptions and on the timeline below this video, where you scroll through the video, there will be chapters for every single character and every single thing I talk about, so you can skip to maybe you only want to use Shujinko against Kitana, for example. You can just skip straight to that with the chapter on the timeline, or the timestamps in the description. Another thing I want to mention, this video is not only for Kang and Shujinko together. This video, however, will be mentioning some specific things against some characters that Kang, has against other characters. But everything I talk about Shujinko, in a general sense, his ambush, his summons, and the moves he gets against other characters, it is universal. Shujinko is his own cameo character, and all of this information applies to every single other main character that he gets paired up with in the game. So this isn't just for Liu Kang, like I said, this is literally Shujinko almost with every single character, but I will be going over some very specific niche Liu Kang things against specific characters when it needs to be mentioned. And all I ask, if you do watch this video, is that please watch the general information video, the part of the video which goes over Shujinko, his ambush, and his summon moves, right? And then feel free to skip to any character that you want to know his matchup against. But please, at least, if you do not know how Shujinko works, please listen to the general information section first. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into it. Let's talk about the general information that Shujinko gives every single character in the game. Shujinko, first of all, gives you 100 base extra health on top of whatever your character already has. So I'm Liu Kang, I have 1,000 health, plus he gives me 100, so I get 1,100. If I was Johnny Cage, I'd be 900 plus 100, so I'd have 1,000 health, right, for example. Another thing I want to mention is Shujinko is responsible for your forward throw, right? Like every other cameo in the game. He does a very specific animation depending on who you're playing against, but he will always do 11% damage or 110 damage. So that will always be it, and there is never an option in which you can combo off the forward throw or your back throw with any character. Now, a very common rule or sort of thing that you can use to remember Shujinko's moves against every single character in the game is if it's a down back input into Kameo, it's usually a launcher, combo starter, or combo extender. If it is a down forward Kameo input, it can be a combo ender, a projectile, could just be like a push move on block, that sort of thing. So just keep those sorts of things in mind. That's just a general rule of thumb you want to use when you've picked Shujinko. Let's just say, you know, you load into Combat League and you pick Shujinko as your main cameo. Against every single character, that is how you're going to be using him most often than not. Another thing I want to mention is breakers against Shujinko. Breakers against Shujinko is an actual strategy which basically stops him from building cameo meter. So, as you can see, Liu Kang is going to combo me, and Shujinko doesn't build normal cameo meter over time like every other cameo. You have to actually use an input, which I'll talk about in a sec. But as you can see, he's going to combo me here. He pulls out Shujinko, and when I use a breaker, no matter where I am on screen, if Shujinko is out using his charge, he will always be interrupted from charging his meter. So make sure you do keep that in mind. So that tactic does make Shujinko a little weaker against every single character in the game, because every single character has a breaker in the game, right? Another use for Shujinko is taking hits or baiting the opponent. So baiting the opponent into hitting Shujinko is a strategy you can use. Obviously you can use this in the neutral as well, but the best example of this is in the corner. So let's do this, right? So he leaves Shujinko out, and I hit Shujinko, right, with an armored wake up, because I think Liu Kang my, you know, try and force some pressure on me on wake up because he has OKI, obviously. But that's a very simple scenario. In Shujinko takes the hit for you, and then because he's hit Shujinko, you can punish your opponent, right? So that's how you use Shujinko as a bait for your opponent to like whiff a move, or hit him, and then you can punish him. That's how that works. Another thing I want to talk about is that there aren't many direct counters to Shujinko. However, Mavado's Kameo on the opponent is almost a direct counter to your Shujinko Kameo. Let me show you how that works. Right, so even though Shujinko is still building the meter, right, I could easily just stand one him while Liu Kang is, you know, getting sent back. Right, it's a punish and I stop Shujinko from building meter. So Mavado is one Kameo that, you know, the flawless block and the forward, as long as you know your opponent has 2 bars to do it, they can literally stop you from building that meter if they want. And the last thing I want to talk about in this section before we get on to the ambush and summons is there's a reason I specifically chose Johnny Cage as my opponent, is because Johnny Cage got a nerf recently to his Shadow Dash and this parry that he has, which is down back 1. Before this patch, what he could do was quite literally just dash straight through the punch or the kick that Shujinko did with both moves. That is no longer the case. Even if you do the enhanced versions, you can see he gets knocked out of both of them. Fatal Blow is the same thing. He still gets hit out of it, and you can be, you know, Liu Kang can just continue pressure if he sees the Fatal Blow start up with like forward for any button, and he will just hit you out of your Fatal Blow. So Johnny Cage is also technically no longer a direct counter to Shujinko. Now we've got all that out of the way, let's start talking about the ambush move that Shujinko gives you. The only ambush move you have with Shujinko is the Kameo button, which is this move right here. This move is not an attack in any form. I just want to reiterate, it does not attack the opponent. The neutral Kameo button does not do that. The only thing it does is recharge your Kameo meter. So this can be done at any time because it's an ambush, right? It can also be held down to get Shujinko to run across the screen. So if I just tap it, sorry, he's fully charged. If I just tap it, he's going to end up right on me. However, if I hold it down and let it go, you can see that he's now meditating behind Johnny Cage. I can also do it in the middle if I want. I can do it anywhere. Basically, as long as it's just on screen behind Johnny Cage. You can do it a little bit off screen as well. Now, if you hold the Kameo button down all the way, he's going to go to the end. As you can see, he's going to build a tiny bit of Kameo meter and instantly disappear. So you don't want to do this. Like I said, you want to... The maximum use you can get out of this is hold it until you just get to the end and let go of it. That way he starts building the Kameo meter. Don't hold it all the way down because he just does that and then goes away. So, because you can get him to meditate behind the opponent either has to backtrack into punishing him, which you can then punish him as Liu Kang with a flying kick, right? Because he's hit Shujinko. Or they have to leave him back there, and even if Johnny Cage comes towards me and then Shujinko is fully off screen, he still builds the Kameo meter. So at that point, it can't be stopped if he moves closer towards me and further away from Shujinko, right? the only other option for this move, besides tapping it, right, and holding it down, is you can hold down during the Kameo button. And this basically makes him meditate on the floor, as you can see. So I'll just put it in the middle so you guys can see. So this is a normal one, right? He's off the ground, and this is him on the ground where you hold down. So this allows him to avoid high projectiles, but obviously does not let him avoid mid and low projectiles. So be careful about how you use it. Another thing I want to quickly mention is when you do a back throw with Liu Kang, by the time against most characters, I'm going to say this, most characters, you can hit the Kameo button, just tap it, so Shujinko recharges Kameo meter, and is basically a free recharge of your Kameo meter if you do get a back throw. Now, you can't hit the Kameo button instantly, like I'm going to show you. See, it doesn't work. It actually makes the breaker sound when you don't have any meter, right? But you can do a little bit after, and this does give you the whole Kameo meter essentially, and you can dash forward to protect him if you want. Against some other characters with a teleport, you have to be very careful. It doesn't really work against them that well, but you can also block the teleport. Shujinko takes the hit and you punish them, right? So that's also another mind game you have. Another thing I just want to talk about Shujinko real quick in practice mode. There is an option where you go to practice settings, and now you go to meters and then Kameo gauge. Shujinko is the only Kameo that has to build meter by himself in the game currently. So when you are in practice mode, I highly advise that you play him on the default Kameo gauge every single time. The only other option that you can use is the full mechanic. The full mechanic is good for practicing combos, so you don't have to recharge him before the combo every single time. But the default is the most realistic in gameplay. I advise never using the refill option because it refills too quick and it gives you misinformation. So please do not use it. So let's start talking about the summon moves that Shujinko gets. And he gets two of them. The first one is going to be Front Kameo, which is a punch and is a high. And the next one is Back Kameo, which is a kick and is mid. Now, I'm going to put Mr. Johnny Cage on block here. You are going to see that the high is -6 on block. However, it is a high and starts up in 20 frames, which means this move can be ducked, right? It can be ducked and it can be punished. So don't forget about that, please. Also, Forward Kameo is the option that you are going to use more often than not in your combos. Forward Kameo is going to be your main option basically when it comes to 99% of combos, just because it does better damage than Back Kameo. However, it does scale in gravity harder than Back Kameo. And obviously Back Kameo starts up in the same amount of frames, 20 frames, but it's a mid. However, you can see that it's -13. This is basically punishable against every single character in the game, so don't go using it willy-nilly, and I'll show you guys how to use it against every single character. Now, you're going to realize that Back Kameo has more damage scaling but less gravity scaling than Forward Kameo. Back Kameo also doesn't reach as far as Forward Kameo, right? I know it's not hitting him there purposely, but in combos it does hit. Forward Kameo does hit further in front of you, and does hit higher. And Back Kameo doesn't hit as far as the Front Kameo in front of you. However, it can hit opponents a lot lower to the ground, a lot more consistently. Another thing is Forward Kameo and Back Kameo both don't require any meter to be used. And as you can see, when I do Forward Kameo, he starts recharging his meter instantly. And when I do Back Kameo, he starts recharging his meter instantly if you do not have your Kameo meter charged. If your Kameo meter is full, he's just going to punch and then go away instantly after doing his whole animation. Same with the Back Kameo version. Shujinko, once he does hit the Forward Kameo or the Back Kameo, he starts recharging. However, you cannot press the Kameo button straight away to call him back instantly after. That's not how this move works. I'm going to show you guys that real quick. Front Kameo, I do it straight away. Back Kameo, I do it straight away. It doesn't work. It doesn't recall him back straight away. You have to wait till he finishes the animation of punching, getting into the meditative spot, and then going away, which is the startup frames for this move and the recovery frames for this move. And during this entire time, Liu Kang, or the whatever character you're using with Shujinko, is completely vulnerable to getting punished in this time. So you have to do the startup frames, do the recovery frames, then you can call him back like this. You can see even I pressed it a bit early. Just that is the perfect timing. That is the startup frames and the recovery frames. And listen, this is not going to happen a lot unless your opponent has no idea what they're doing against Shujinko. But that is something that you can do. A very common use for Front Kameo and Back Kameo is you're going to be using, I'm going to use the full meter for this just to show you guys. You're often going to use this move, either front or back Kameo, and cancel it into another Shujinko move, which will be down back Kameo or down forward, or very specific move. So you're going to do front Kameo, down forward Kameo, right? That's how this Kameo basically works. Or you can do back Kameo, down forward Kameo, or back Kameo, down back Kameo, or front Kameo, down back Kameo. That's how you're going to use this move. And another thing I want to mention is that Shujinko, when he does the punch or kick, front Kameo or back Kameo on block, there is always an armorable gap, and this counts for every single character that your opponent plays in the entire game. So if he does the punch, you can see you can armor through it. If he does the kick, it doesn't matter, you can armor through it. So no matter which situation you do on block, your opponent can always do this. Now this makes some characters better than others. For example, Kung Lao is very famous for having an armored launcher basically with Goro. So just take that into consideration when you do use Shujinko on block. And obviously we're going to get more into this as we go on, but front Kameo and back Kameo, as I was talking about, can be cancelled into a move, and this keeps combos going and, you know, all that sort of thing. And yeah, I'll basically get onto that when I talk about the characters. But yes, that is it for the general information section. I know it's long already, but now we're going to get into all the opponents that you could have faced with Shujinko. So let's get into our first character, that is going to be Ashura. Ashura gives Shujinko access to 3 unique moves. This being down back Kameo, down forward Kameo, and down forward down. Down forward Kameo down, I should say. So let's talk about down back Kameo first. We're going to do this in order. So down back Kameo with every single character will be first, and then down forward, and then, you know, all the goes after that. So down back Kameo, you're going to see it's a launcher. It is 21 frames on startup and minus 11. Obviously, Astra can punish this with her 2-2 to 1 or 1-2 if she pleases. So definitely don't be throwing it out willy-nilly. But one thing that does change the startup frames is this into this, right? So forward Kameo into down back, or back Kameo into down back. You can see it starts up in 13 frames. This means it no longer has a gap. Whereas, you know, if I did it, for example, in a string, it would be 13 frames, right? But there would be a gap if I did it like this. 21 frames. She could armor through that. Now, it's minus 11, like I said, so it can be punished just by blocking. So she doesn't have to armor through it, so she can just wait if she pleases. But if she's uncertain about the move you're going to use, which we're going to talk about the two other moves in a second, she can armor through, no problem, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. So here we have the combination of us using back Kameo or forward Kameo into the input. You can see I tried to armor through, it doesn't work. If you do not use front Kameo or back Kameo into the move, this is what it looks like. Right? Now, as you can see, Ashura doesn't quite punish it, but she does get out of the situation for free. But like I said, as you can see, if you just block it, she can just punish you with 1-2. She can also do it with 2-2 and 2-1. So keep those things in mind. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next move, which is down forward Kameo. First of all, I just want to show you guys that this is a projectile, but it doesn't go full screen. And Ashura's version, the original version, is the exact same. So yeah, at full screen, as you see, it doesn't hit. If I just move in like just a little bit from full screen, it does hit. So I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. So let's talk about the frames and stuff, right? So you can see that if you do it raw, it's 44 frames startup and it's -1 on block from up close. Obviously, the further you move back, the more plus it is, right? And just inside full screen and all that sort of thing. However, if you do this move from front Kameo or back Kameo into down forward Kameo, you're going to see that it starts up faster in 34 frames rather than 44. So it's 10 frames faster and it's a little bit more minus. So you can't really challenge anything after this move because it's kind of her turn. She has a 10 frame mid, I'm pretty sure, so she can just force that in front of you and you can't really do much about it. So you basically have lost your turn. Also, I do want to say that this sequence has a gap, so I'll show you guys that. So you're gonna see I can punish with 1-2. I can punish with 2-1 and 2-2. I can also punish with back 2. I just did it wrong. Back 2. As you can see, that's 15 frame startup. There is basically a 15 frame gap, and that's how long you have to punish the gap. There's also back 3 and obviously her mid, which is 12 frames. There you go. So obviously when she tries to take her turn back with that mid after on block, it's 7 frames. You do have a 6 frame high, but let's be honest, it doesn't reach that far. So make sure you keep those sort of things in mind. I don't really recommend using this move other than maybe for a little bit of zoning, but as you can see, the startup on the move is just extremely long if you do it for zoning. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so recently Shujinko had had only 2 moves, but he got added a new move, and that is Down Forward Kameo Down. So that's this move right here. You can see it starts up in 28 frames and is -19 on block from close up. So yes, 1, it has a gap, and 2, it's extremely minus on block. I also want to say that if you do any string, right, into it, sorry, there we go. Also, you have this, you could do this, you could do it 3 times. It's always going to be -19, no matter if you do it after a string or after forward or back cameo. Also, I'm going to show you guys real quick that even if you go to full screen, I don't know what I'm doing here. If you go to full screen, it does travel full screen, but you can see it's -16 from full screen. This does not mean you can get punished by any of Astra's moves, by the way, but just remember that it has a long startup where she can see Shujinko come out, and she can basically use her teleport to like hit you from across the screen, so keep that in mind. Also, just inside full screen, you're gonna see that it's still -19. So basically just inside full screen and up close is all -19. So it's all extremely punishable. I'm not sure about how she could punish this on block from just inside full screen, but I'm sure the Astra mains can figure that one out. And obviously I also mentioned that it has a gap, so she can punish it. I'll show you guys that. Okay, so the gap between this down forward cameo down and down forward cameo is slightly less for down forward cameo down, but it still has a gap, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. So you can punish with 1, 2, you can still punish with 2 as well, and I'm pretty sure you can punish with forward 4, just I've mistimed it. There we go. You can see the move still comes out, but she avoids it pretty much by forward 4. So a forward 4 being, I think, the slowest move is 12 frames, isn't it? Yeah. So it's a 12 frame gap. Keep that in mind. And yeah, that's pretty much Astra in a nutshell. Shujinko doesn't get too many good moves out of it, besides probably a combo starter, but even that, you know, your Liu Kang, you do good damage anyway. So I don't recommend using Shujinko against Astra, but if you want to, hey, who's going to stop you, right? Okay, I just wanted to quickly mention that before we move on, that Astra can use forward 3, her overhead move, to punish down forward cameo down and not down forward cameo. I'll show you guys what it looks like. So this is down forward. This is going to be down forward cameo. You can see, because it's a very high projectile, she still gets hit by it, but if you do the ground version, she can completely punish you. I know it says counter, but you still get hit while the move is happening and you're stuck in animation. So yeah, also keep that in mind. Okay, so this time we're going to be talking about Liu Kang and Baraka. Obviously Baraka got added a new move recently, which we'll talk about in a second. But Baraka gives Shujinko 3 moves, and this is the first move. Is Down Back Kameo. Down Back Kameo has 2 versions for the same input, and I'll explain why in a second. So, as you can see, it starts up in 20 frames and is 0 on block. So, you having a 6 frame high does work to your favor. Also, you having a 7 frame down 1 makes you trade with Baraka. So, do with that information as you please. I was saying that Down Back Kameo has 2 versions, and we'll get onto that. But as you can see, when you do a Down Back Kameo after either Forward Kameo or Back Kameo, it starts up in 10 frames, which means there's literally no gap in between them, and there's literally there's no gap that can be interrupted, and there's no gap that can be armored through, and it's 0 on block. So yeah, let's talk about the differences between the moves. Now, obviously you guys have seen that this one is a 2-hit, and it's a high and an overhead. I'm going to show you guys that if you use Back Kameo into Down Back Kameo on block, that even though the first hit is a high, then it's an overhead, the high is not duckable and it jails after Back Kameo. So I'll let go of block right, do it again. So yeah, it's a high, but it jails after Back Kameo. If you do it after Forward Kameo, obviously you can duck and punish, right? So yeah, you can literally duck and punish. This goes for every move. Every move that starts off with a high and is done after Forward Kameo, you can just duck Forward Kameo and punish. But if you have a move like that is a high and do it with Back Kameo, there's a chance that the jails is dependent on a few things, like the type of move that it is, like projectile or whatnot, or whether it's like a special move that hits, or like how fast it starts up. That's usually the most dependent factor. But just to show you guys that that is the thing, and just to show you guys that it is a high, he ducks the first move and then blocks the overhead. So that is that. Also, this move has another property, like I was saying, we're finally going to get onto that. Let's turn him off block. And that is, it turns into a different move. It turns into a sort of anti-air, but I recommend please do not use this move as an anti-air. Use Liu Kang's anti-air down back 4. Do not use Shujinko's Baraka given version. So I'm just going to do something real simple, right? You can see that he grabs them out of the air like an anti-air basically, and applies bleed damage. The bleed damage always does 5%, and as you can see, this move does a whole bunch of initial damage when it first catches him. It's an okay way to get some extra damage. Also, it's a good way to close out the round. Obviously, bleed damage doesn't kill your opponent in this game, but it can literally get them to last breath, and then they have to use their meter, and you're Liu Kang, so you know you have literally forward 4-3 into basically flying kick, and they have to flawless block, you know, or back forward 4, they have to flawless block it or they die. So they are some good late game situations that you can force on Baraka. Let's talk about the next move, which is Down Back Kameo down. Just got to stand. Right, so if you hold down after Down Back Kameo, you can see the startup frames don't show up, but I did figure it out to be 11 frames. It starts up a lot faster than this version, and this is basically your main combo starter slash extender, all that sort of thing. You're going to be using this move in combos a lot. If you do this move after Back Kameo or Front Kameo, right, you can see it doesn't change the properties, it doesn't start up any faster, and it's still extremely minus on block, so you're going to get punished. Also, you're going to see that it's a mid and an overhead, so you know you don't have to use Back Kameo if you don't want to. You can use Front Kameo, but just remember that Front Kameo can be down 1, or you know, if the player is good enough, they can literally just micro duck and punish you. So keep that in mind. It's basically just a combo extender. Never use it on block. If you want to use something on block, you know, just use Down Back Kameo. It's 0 on block, and you know that gives you just as much as a chance as Baraka rather than the other way around. And the last move we're going to talk about is Down Forward Kameo. It's a projectile, it's a high, and starts up in 17 frames. Starting up in 17 frames is actually not too bad, and you could actually use this in a zoning battle if you wanted to. Just remember that it is a high, so you know what you can do with it is like pretty limited, because they can just see Shujinko come out and they're like, oh, I know Shujinko gets this projectile, so I'll just duck it, you know. So that is a thing. You can also do this. Now, you have to remember that Baraka is a character where his fastest punish is a 7 frame, which means if you do Back Kameo into Down Forward Kameo, this move jails. So I'm going to show you guys. Well, I'll try and let go of block there. I'll do it again. You just get caught by the high. Because it jails, you have to block it. And you can see it's -7 with a tiny bit of pushback. You lose your turn, but also Baraka can't punish you with his 7 frame standing one or down one. If he down ones you, you get your turn back, because down one's a super minus, you know, so you can't duck it after Back Kameo. You can do that. It hits Shujinko, but Lu can literally take his turn back after you're down one anyway. So there's also that. And yeah, this move is always going to be safe against Baraka, no matter what string you do it after. Just remember that, you know, the initial, you know, Back Kameo can be armored through. So, you know, I did mention that earlier, but just to keep that in mind. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Baraka. He's a very simple character. Not Shujinko, I wouldn't really recommend using it against Baraka, but the combos are not great, I'll be honest. But the fact that the projectile jails is really good, and the fact that down Back Kameo, even though it takes up your whole Kameo meter, is 0 on block. So, you know, it creates interesting situations against Baraka that you otherwise wouldn't have against him as Liu Kang. So yeah, use it, try it, see if you like it, but it's not the best use of Shujinko in my opinion. Going on to the next one. Okay, so our next character is General Shao. You might be thinking, I thought you were doing this in alphabetical order. Yes, I am. I'm counting this as General Shao, not just Shao Kahn, because that's how the game recognizes it. So let's talk about the moves you get. You get 3 unique moves that Shujinko gets against Shao. I'm not going to say General Shao there, I'm just going to say Shao, it's a lot easier. Now, you're going to see that these moves are kind of weird, but oh, don't worry, I've got them for you. First of all, you get down Back Kameo, right? Which is this move. His sort of ground pound projectile type move that launches. You can see it starts up in 43 frames, so it's a long startup, but it is +7. When you do this move after Front Kameo or Back Kameo, it does start up 10 frames faster, and even though you do it after Front Kameo or Back Kameo, it does have a gap. So Shao can punish here with 1-2. He can also punish with forward 1-2, and he can also punish with 2-2. So yeah, as you can see, it's not a great move. Just remember that this move can be used for combos. It's not great because of the next move we're going to talk about, but yeah, you can use it for very simple combos if you please. And don't worry, I have the optimal combos for you guys. Anyways, let's talk about his next launcher, basically, which is Down Back Kameo Up. You can see it starts up in 11 frames. It's extremely fast, and it's -15 on block, which means, you know, Shao can punish it. It's not the best thing to use as a block string. Front Kameo and Back Kameo into this move does not change any of the properties. It doesn't make it less or more minus, and it doesn't change the startup frames. So do with that what you will. You can see that it does hit high, though. You guys are going to see if the Xiao thinks he's cheeky by trying to duck the hit, you can see that Back Kameo into it jails. So Liu Kang doesn't really get a combo off this situation if it happens like this. It's more so a good hit confirm, but as you can see, it jails. So it can catch the Xiao player if he's ducking. I mean, you know, last breath is a thing. So it's starting up in 11 frames, also has no gap, has no armorable gap either. So that is a situation that you could use. Also, just remember that they could also just flawless block the initial kick or punch. That's also a tactic they have against you to stay alive. And yeah, I mean, it jails on block, but they can also just block it, right? And then punish you. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Now we get on to a little bit more of an interesting move. It's down Forward Kameo, and you're going to recognize it being the overhead axe strike that Xiao has. Now, when Xiao does it, he leaves the axe on the ground, right, for a very long time, so he can pick it up and do all sorts of things up with it and do a ground pound. You don't have this option. It's literally just one hitting move. That is an overhead. You can see he starts up in 38 frames, has a long startup, and it's -7 on block. -7 against Xiao, guess what? He can't punish it. You do this move after Back Kameo or Front Kameo, it starts up 10 frames faster at 28 frames. So there's a little bit less of a gap, but there is still a gap. I want to make that very clear. There is still a gap. It can be flawless blocked, and most importantly, it can be interrupted by 1-2 and 2-2. So I want to show you guys that now. 1-2, right? So not as big as a gap as down Back Kameo initially, right? But there's enough time for you to get a standing 2 in and punish Shujinko for doing it. So that is your counterplay. Just remember that unlike Xiao's version, right? He leaves the axe on the ground and then he gets like this and all that sort of thing. Shujinko doesn't get that, or your main character / Shujinko doesn't get that. So it's just one overhead strike, keep that in mind. In terms of if you would use Shujinko against Xiao, I wouldn't recommend it. Like, if your opponent knows what they're doing, right, they know that every single thing basically has a gap or is minus, so there's no point to doing anything on block. The damage is cool, I will say that, the damage is very good, but like, you got to open up Xiao in the first place, which is dependent on the player, let's be honest. Xiao is not a great character, but he's not the best either. But if you can open him up, you do really good damage with Shujinko and your character. But if you don't, then you know you're doing things on block that Xiao can punish and interrupt. So I wouldn't really recommend using Shujinko against Xiao. And yeah, anyway, on to the next one. Okay, so obviously now we're going to talk about Shujinko against Geras. Let's first suggest that you get access to 3 unique moves, right? And I know I usually talk about recommendations about whether to use Shujinko against the opponent at the end of this section, but I'm going to tell you now, this is worth every single bit of Shujinko. If you're going to play Shujinko against any opponent, make it Geras. You get very heavily rewarded for doing so. Okay, so let's talk about the first move, which is down Back Kameo. You can see it starts up in 24 frames, is -17, and it's Geras' time stop move. Obviously 24 frames is a bit air. -17 obviously very punishable by Geras' standards. His most damaging punisher will be coming out if you do this. If you do this after Back Kameo or Front Kameo, you're going to see that the startup changes to 14 frames, so there's no longer a gap. So, you know, if you did it like this, there's a gap. If you do it like this, there isn't a gap. So just keep that in mind. and it's still minus 17 on block, so he could just not even have to mind game it, you know, just punish it anyway. This is going to be your go-to combo starter and extender for every single combo against Geras. There are other options, but I'm going to tell you guys now, the fact that time stop literally stops the time, right, from your opponent moving, basically, so you get to do anything. It's ridiculous. This is why I don't recommend using any other moves in your combos against Geras as Shujinko, because this move right here, it basically keeps the combo going for so long that Shujinko gets all his Kameo meter back anyway. So you're getting to use Shujinko, which, let's be honest, you usually wouldn't. And two, you're getting a free refill of Shujinko's Kameo meter every single time you combo Geras, which is insane. Just remember, you know, if the Geras player is smart, they can use Breaker against you. But, I mean, if they know at that point, to be honest. The other option is down, forward, down. We'll get onto that in a second. But I just wanted to show you that that is another option that you do have. Now, this allows Lu, for the first time in MK1 history, to use his most damaging string. You might be thinking his most damaging string is 333, and you would be correct, because until now this is basically the only string they could use viably in a combo. But when you have time stop, you get to use 4-3, which is actually your most damaging string and has the least amount of combo scaling. And when you hit this move in these combos, and when you guys see the optimal combos on the video, yeah, the damage is insane. The damage is absolutely worth it, whether it's mid-screen, in the corner. You can just do some ridiculous things with time stop. Yeah. Just remember that it's minus on block, so you can get fully punished. There is a restand option for this move if you really wanted to use it. You just remind yourself that you don't get Shujinko's Kameo meter back after this. You can risk it and get armored, but it's not a guaranteed situation. But I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like. So let's say I've opened Geras up here with a grounded combo 1-2, 3-3, 2-2, forward 4-3, all that sort of thing, and then I cancel into time stop and do the usual combo. You can do 3-3 into fireball or low fireball, whichever one you want, and then you can hit him with a standing 4. If you don't know what this does, standing 4 leaves you in a +4 situation. So this is what it looks like. You can see that it leaves you +4. From this distance, you can micro dash and get it back 2. And your back 2 is 10 frames, right? Being +4, and then you have to micro dash, so you lose basically a frame or 2. Ends up being like an 8 frame mid minimum, right? So that is a situation that you can use. Just remind yourself that you can get armored out of it. It's not a guaranteed situation, but it's something you can use, you know, to deny wake up for Geras if you really wanted to. Just remember that you have to keep him grounded the entire time. You can't launch him at any point. On to the next move. We have Down, Forward Kameo, which is this move right here, the Sandstorm. You can see that it hit behind him. Now, obviously, this move is, they all hit mids, right? It has 3 options, and it hits mid if you use the medium one, it hits mid if you use the close one, and it hits mid if you use the far one. So Geras forces you to block Sandstorm, and you also get to force him to block Sandstorm. So that's always a good option for you. You can see that it starts up in 16 frames, which is pretty quick, and there's 0 on block. Yeah, remember when I said this is one of the best uses of Shujinko against any opponent in the game? You're probably understanding why now. Is because even though you can do Back Kameo or Front Kameo into this move, you can see that it's always 0 on block. It's 16 frames, which means he can't interrupt it. He also can't armor through it, which means you leave yourself in a 0 on block situation against him after this move all the time, which is insane. Remember, you're a 6 frame character, and Geras is not. It does have a little bit of pushback, right? It does have a little bit of pushback, right? But honestly, you're 7 frame, like, you know, you can actually challenge him after this move, which is just insane to think about. Now, obviously, I want to mention that make sure if you're, doing a block string, that you're using the close version, because if you use, the normal version, you can see, it just whiffs, and if you use a far version, it also whiffs. So yeah, make sure you're using the close version, which is just holding back after the input, and it makes it, it leaves you in a very good situation that you otherwise wouldn't be. You basically lose your turn otherwise. On to the last move, which is down forward Kameo down. Now, you can see it starts up at 16 frames yet again, and is +3 on block. Yeah, you guys are really understanding now why Shujinko is so good against Geras. Listen, is it the best Kameo against Geras? I don't know, but in terms of value that you're getting out of Shujinko compared to every other character, you're doing very good as Shujinko. Now, doing Front Kameo into this move, or Back Kameo into this move, does not change the startup frames, does not change the plus frames. But remember, even though Geras can armor through the punch or the kick, if he doesn't do that, you're left in a +3 situation, and you're a 6 frame character, dude. Like, Geras basically can't challenge you after that move. I know there's a bit of pushback, but I mean, if you do this in the corner, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do on +3, dude? You basically have a 7 frame mid to force down his throat. You also have a 6 frame high, which he literally can't challenge unless he does the read and ducks. And you also have a 7 frame down 1, which he also can't challenge because you're +3, and it will come out in 5 frames. So if he does anything in the corner against this situation, he's stuffed. Like, unless he reads the high, that is it. Even if you condition your opponent to blocking after this, you can continue with forward 4 if they get so conditioned into it, and it ends up being a 9 frame mid, right? So yeah, should you use Shujinko against Geras? Probably not all the time, but I highly recommend that you give Shujinko against Geras a real good go. It's fun. The combos are fun. The stuff you get on block is fun. And I'm telling you, it is highly unlikely that most Geras players online will even know what's happening when you're picking Shujinko. They probably won't know about the armored gap, and they won't know about being neutral on block, and they won't know about being plus on block. It is so good. Even if you hit them with the silly grounded block string, right? After hitting him with the combo and then using 4 to be plus 4, dude, like, they'll be so lost. And yeah, pick if you see Geras and you're playing Liu Kang, trust me, pick Shujinko. You're gonna have some fun. But yeah, on to the next one. So obviously we're gonna move on to Havik this time. Havik gives you access to 3 moves. And weirdly enough, 2 of them are projectiles, and 1 of them is a multi-hitting move, which I'll talk about in a sec. Let's talk about the Down Back Kameo first. As you're going to see, Down Back Kameo it starts up in 50 frames. It's so slow that you actually can't combo off it after forward or back Kameo either. It does change the frame data on startup to 40 frames, so it starts up, 10 frames faster, and it's still plus 27 on block, but its startup is so long. This is like possibly one of the worst moves that Shujinko has access to. Obviously, the startup being so long, Havik can interrupt the gap. I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. So you can punish this move with 1-1, you can punish it with forward 1, you can also punish it with 2, right? You can punish it with back 2, which is, every Havik's dream, and you can also punish it with forward 4. So, yeah, he can basically interrupt this gap however he wants. So definitely don't be using it on block, even though it's like plus 27. Trust me, there is no point. And one more thing I wanted to show you guys about this move is, let's turn him off block for a second. This projectile does go full screen, and you can see it still pops up from full screen. Which means, even though it's 50 frame startup, and we all know that Havik has a move that's basically a slide that can catch you, so he can hit you with that. But if the Havik player's reaction time is slow, you can always get a conversion from full screen if it does hit. A very niche scenario that's probably never going to happen, but the option is there. Let's talk about our next move, which is Down Back Kameo Down. This move right here, you can see hits high. It looks like a mid, it's a high. So don't get it confused. It starts up in 26 frames, as you can see. So obviously if I do this, there's a gap. And it's minus 12 on block. So he doesn't even have to interrupt the gap if he doesn't want to. He can just block and punish. Now, doing this move after forward Kameo or back Kameo also doesn't change the frame data, which means he can punish with 1-1 and forward 1 if he wants to. Actually, I'm just double checking my notes. It's not forward 1. You can only punish this gap with 1-1 with Havik, but it's possible. 100% possible. Also, I want to mention that this move is also like your go-to combo starter, right? So that's not optimal, but you get the gist of it. As you can see, it does some pretty good damage also. Let's move on to the next move, which is Down Forward Kameo. Down Forward Kameo is this twisted torso move that Havik has access to. You can see that it starts up in 16 frames, so it's pretty fast. Doing this move after Forward Kameo makes it start up in 6 frames. which means there is no possibility of a chance that this can get interrupted or armored. You're going to see that Shujinko's down forward Kameo move does hit all high. All of the moves are high, but guess what? If you do this after Back Kameo, it jails. So now you basically have a 6-frame move that jails on block and is +4. Yeah, you could only imagine what this does in the corner to Havik. Because there's no pushback in the corner and you're +4, you dominate Havik in the corner. Havik, no matter what button you do, cannot challenge you after this move. Obviously he can armor through the forward Kameo or back Kameo part, if he knows about it, and he's a character that gets super armor. But by God, if they don't know about this, or if they try and duck it, they get hit, you know, you get the Oki. But if they block this all the time, there's quite literally nothing the Havik player can do in the corner. In the mid screen, you're +4 and there's pushback, right? So you're going to try and dash up and you lose a few frames doing that. But in the corner, I don't think there's any counter besides having to armor through the forward Kameo or the back Kameo part, which is insane. And yes, that means you have true plus frames against Havik. Do I recommend that you use Shujinko against Havik? Yeah, I kind of do. Even though we talked about the first move, which was down back Kameo, that move is atrocious. Never use it as Shujinko. But if you use down back Kameo down in your combos, you're going to get a lot of mileage out of your damage. And if you use down forward Kameo, like I've just told you, yeah, if the Havik player doesn't know, they're going to get very frustrated with this because they're not going to be able to do anything. And yeah, like I said, I recommend using Shujinko against Havik, especially if you're like a character that's got a 6-frame, you know, Liu Kang, Li Mei, Kung Lao. But guess what? Even if your main character is only a 7-frame character, yeah, you're still dominating Havik in terms of damage and plus frames on block, which is insane to think about. Havik has access to all these moves himself and does nowhere near as well as what Shujinko does. So yeah, moving on to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Shujinko against Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage, for the first time alphabetically here, gives you access to 4 moves. Now, you might be thinking, wow, you get 4 moves. That's pretty cool. You get more usage out of Shujinko. Yeah, I'm about to tell you that's not the case. So let's talk about the first move, which is Down Back Kameo. Down Back Kameo is Johnny Cage's Rising Star move. Is our usual, like, you know, meter burn combo starter sort of thing. You can see it starts up in 20 frames and is -18 on block. So don't be using this move on block. Johnny Cage will punish the hell out of you with this. I know his damage isn't super insane, but with some cameos it does end up being. And yeah, if you do this move after forward Kameo or back Kameo, you can see it starts up in 12 frames, so it's 8 frames faster. But make sure you don't use it on block. It's -18, fully punishable by Johnny Cage's standards, and fully punishable by Johnny Cage's standards. And this is going to be your main combo starter / extender for your grounded, for your back 2, all that sort of thing. Don't worry, I'll explain it, but you guys will see in the optimal combo video. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this move. There's not much to it. And now you have Down Back Kameo down, which is he throws the sunglasses and the people laugh in the background. Also, I just want to mention that no matter what move you do, Shujinko wears the same sunglasses that the opponent Johnny Cage does. So yeah, that's pretty funny. This move starts up in 64 frames. I know it says 34, it's a lot longer than that. And is plus 20 on block. Don't trust me, I'm not going to show how I figured it out in this video, just trust me that it is what it is. Yeah. The front cameo and back cameo into the move, the gap is still extremely slow. Right? It basically doesn't change the gap. And out of all the moves, Johnny Cage could use the slowest punish in his arsenal and still get the most damage out of it. So don't use this move. Even if you've left him in a grounded comboed state and he's just sitting there and you cancel into this move, it just goes on block, which I guess gives you the plus frames that you want, but I mean, it's just not worth using this move at all in any form. So when I said access to 4 unique moves, one move doesn't even count so far. Next you get access to Down Forward Kameo, which is Johnny Cage's shadow. You can see it's very fast, 16 frames, and is only -7 on block. Now when you do this move after front or back cameo, it actually starts up in 9 frames. So this move being -7 is fully safe against Johnny Cage, believe it or not. It used to be a thing that Johnny Cage could use the parry move or his dash move to get through this gap, but that is no longer the case after they updated Johnny Cage, where they nerfed his defensive moves basically. And obviously I'll show you guys what it looks like when you try and jail back cameo into it, so I'll show you guys if it works or not. Obviously it does. It starts up in 9 frames, you know what did you expect, and is 7 frames, which is, listen, you lose your turn against Johnny Cage, but you're fully safe. He can't punish this, and if he gets cheeky and tries to duck it, he gets hit. So yeah, he literally can't punish the gap. He used to be able to, and he can't, like, yeah, he just has to eat it, unless he armors through, you know, the initial front cameo or back cameo that you input. But like, they have to have the knowledge for that. Next we have Down Forward Kameo down, and this move is Johnny Cage's nut punch. You can see it starts up in 13 frames and is -23 on block. Yeah, this move does restand Johnny Cage, and I'll get onto that in a second. If you do this move after back cameo or front cameo, it starts up 1 frame faster. It doesn't change the fact that there's no gap from the previous iteration of just doing this. But Johnny Cage can also just punish it and, you know, use his highest damage starter against you as he pleases. Just remember that you can use it as a restand. It's better to use in the corner. Yeah, it's better to use in the corner. You can see you're only +6, which in the mid screen doesn't mean much from this far, but obviously when you go into the corner, this means a lot more. Right, you're +6, which means you can do anything and he can't wake up. Even if he tries to do, if he tries to armor, just like straight up armor, it's not gonna work because you have a 12 frame mid on forward 4, which is a 2 hitting move, and like it becomes 6 frames because you're +6. So yeah, on the restand. So he literally can't do anything about it in terms of that. Just remember, when you do use this move, you're sacrificing damage for the restand, because Shujinko has like 20 frames to hit them, and you know, the move only comes out so fast and all that sort of thing. So you are sacrificing damage to get the restand. Do I recommend that you use Shujinko against Johnny Cage? No. Is it fun? Yeah, it can be, but the combos and the damage, in my opinion, is not worth it. The down forward cameo, it's okay, but you just like fully lose your turn after it anyway, even if you use back cameo. So that's not a huge plus for you using Shujinko against him. And the restand is okay, but I think Shujinko just has better uses against other characters. But give it a try. Let me know what you guys think. I think it's an okay strategy, but I still wouldn't recommend it against Johnny Cage. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Liu Kang and Shujinko with Kenshi. And all I can say is, finally you can force Kenshi to play the single player game that he usually forces upon you. And I'll get into that pretty much straight away, because Kenshi gives you access to 4 unique moves. I'd say all of them pretty much have a use. And yeah, let's go on to the first one. So you get access to Down Back Kameo, which is Kenshi's Sento puppet move. You can see it starts up in 31 frames, so it takes a bit to get out, and once you do activate it, you're going to see that Sento gets his own timer, just like Kenshi's cameo gets his own timer when he pulls out Sento. So you get the exact same treatment he does. You also get all the moves that Sento would not have otherwise, right? So every move that Kenshi has access to with Sento, you also have access to. Now, I know when you pull out Sento as Kenshi, you get a few other special moves that you have access to, like a projectile that goes full screen and all that. Obviously, you don't get that, but you get access to all the Sento moves that Kenshi does. And if you do this move after forward or back cameo, you're going to see it starts up in 21 frames. You're going to be saying, well, that's basically an armored punish, is it not? Yeah, it is, but I'm not going to tell you to use it like this. In the frames that Sento gets pulled out, there's startup frames, correct? And then there is Liu Kang recovering from bringing Sento out. You're going to realize very quickly that Liu Kang is still in recovery. He's still stuck in the summon animation, but Sento is not. As soon as he gets pulled out, he does the move instantly. And yeah, you get access to all the moves, which is ridiculous. You're literally playing a single player game, and you're a character with a 6-frame punish, a 6-frame move, and Sento, which is ridiculous. One thing I wanted to mention before I get on to how to set this up: when you pull out Sento, you're gonna realize that you can do a whole bunch of like special moves, right? This, and all of them get blocked, and it's fine. Sento never goes away. However, if I put Kenshi here to not block. Let's say I decide to hit Kenshi with an armored wake up, or end the combo in back forward 4. This makes Sento go away instantly. And this means, even though I am in full, I'll put it back to default just to show yous. I have to charge him as well. But you're gonna see. If I land it, I lose the entire Kameo meter for Sento, and I get 0 Kameo meter back for Shujinko. Keep that in mind. When you hit a back forward 4, or a armored launched, an armored back forward 4, right? You're gonna see, he just disappears. So you do lose access to Sento if you land a back forward 4. I know back forward 4 is the most damaging way to end combos, and that's in the optimal combo video, but you can also substitute that for back forward 3 to keep Sento out for the remainder of his timer. Let's go on to how to set this up. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to set this up. You do have to sacrifice the damage of your current combo. However, if you do it like this, because he gets up, right, that wasn't the most prime example. When he gets up, you can hit a forward Kameo or back Kameo, and this allows more time for you to get Sento to cover your back on wake up. If you use back Kameo into down back Kameo, which is a recommended form I'm going to recommend to you, you get a little bit more time in which Kenshi has to hit the ground. Whereas forward Kameo, the gravity scaling is a bit harder, so he hits the ground faster. But if you use back Kameo into down back Kameo after your combo, and it can't be a lengthy combo, you can't be a meter burn combo, except for your grounded, that can be like a 1 meter burn of course. But in a back 2-3, you can't spend any meter, otherwise you're just not getting the OKI you need for Sento to cover your back on wake up. So you can do back 2-3, back 2-3, and then listen, if you do the forward Kameo, you do have a little bit of time in which he might just straight up armor wake up you. However, if you did it into back Kameo and down back Kameo, there's a chance that even if he armors wake up or tries to catch you wake up buttons or something, Kenshi will hit him before you can even hit him. And if Sento hits Kenshi on wake up, that's a full combo confirm, and you're hitting anywhere from 40 to 60% damage. And yeah, Kenshi is going to regret his life. The Kenshi player is going to regret even playing Kenshi in the first place if you pull this off. So yeah, like I said, not a guaranteed situation. There's a lot of timings involved, which is very specific, I'm not going to cover, but you can learn it, and trust me, once you learn it, the Kenshi player is not going to be very happy. Let's finally get on to the other moves of Kenshi. I know we were on Sento for a while, but we've covered it. Let's move on. Down back Kameo up is our next move. This is basically your normal combo starter slash extender. You can see it starts up in 11 frames, and if I do it after front Kameo or back Kameo, it doesn't change the frame data. It doesn't change the frame data at all, and it's still minus 12, so Kenshi can punish you, but it is your main combo starter slash extender besides Sento in the corner, if you can even pull that off, right? So yes, you're going to be using this all the time, pretty much in your combos. It does a lot of damage, and just don't use it on block, period. And there's obviously no gap because it starts up in 11 frames. But he can always armor through the front Kameo or the back Kameo input. Next, let's move on to down forward Kameo. This move you can see starts up in 8 frames. It's very fast. And is -7 on block. It hits mid. You see that correctly. This hits mid, not high. So, let's just quickly talk about doing this move after front Kameo or back Kameo on block. It doesn't change any of the frame data at all. And you can see that if you do this against Kenshi on block, right, whether you do the front Kameo or the back Kameo version, it's -7, so it's fully safe. It has no gap besides the front Kameo and the back Kameo, so it's a free way to make some extra chip damage if he hasn't flawless blocked the previous moves already. Another thing I want to talk about is, let's send ourselves full screen here. This move can be held down, and this basically lets Shujinko do a Naruto run across the screen, and when you let it go, it hits the opponent. Right. You can hold it for the entire time if you want, like I did, and yeah. You can also just straight up hit him from mid-screen because he goes that far. So yeah, it's still -7 from that far. The startup of the move is still 8 frames, but remember, he's traveling across the screen, so it's obviously a lot longer than 8 frames. But the move does start up still very quickly. Unlike Kenshi's version of this move, he doesn't absorb a projectile. And what I mean by this is, if Kenshi throws a projectile, which Kenshi basically doesn't have a proper projectile besides when he has Sento out, it literally will go, it will hit Shujinko during this running animation, and Shujinko will get disabled, right? Until like you can use him again. So he takes the hit, but he doesn't absorb the hit like Kenshi's version does, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. So yeah, you're going to see that Kenshi's version fully absorbs one projectile. If you do an instant air, it will catch him because there's multiple projectiles with Liu Kang in the air. But if you do one projectile like I'm about to do, he absorbs it and hits you straight through it. Right, I should have held it for longer. Right, and he hits you, obviously you can block in time and all that. But the main reason I'm showing you this is, even though Shujinko technically absorbs one projectile from Kenshi, it's him getting disabled, not technically absorbing the hit, he's just taking the hit for you. So just keep that in mind. And let's talk about the last move. And as you can see, we have not had a useless move so far. You wonder why that is, and why Kenshi is a very good character. Because Shujinko also gets the very good moves that Kenshi has access to. And the next one is down forward Kameo down. And this is Kenshi's push soul charge move. You can see it starts up in 13 frames, so there's literally no gap. And it's -11, so punishable. If you do this after a move, you're gonna see that it starts up 1 frame faster, but it's still -11. So no gap, but still punishable. This move has an option, which basically lets you charge the move, same as Kenshi. You can see he pushes down and it goes for a very, very long time. If you do this, right, I'm going to talk about the frame data in terms of you cancelling it after back Kameo or front Kameo. You can see you change the startup frames by holding it down. Holding it down has different properties. That is correct, you heard me correctly. I am not going to show all of this in the format, but on screen right now I'm going to put all the values that I have found for you guys. As you guys are going to see, 12 to 39 frames is -11 with no pushback on block. If you do this from 12 to the 17 frame gap, there is no gap. Kenshi cannot punish this, and he can't even armor punish it. However, if you delay it to 18 to 25 frames, he can armor through it, so there is an armorable gap. And if you hold it down from 26 frames to 39 frames, it's still minus 11 like all the previous moves, but he can interrupt it with his 1-4 string. If you hold it for any longer than this, you're going to move on to 40 frames to 71 frames, which is -1 on block and has a tiny bit of pushback. And the last part is 72 to 73 frames, which is the very end of the move, which is a very big pushback and is +9 on block. Obviously, this all of the 40 frames to the 73 frames can all be interrupted by 1-4 and some other few combo starter strings that Kenshi has. So keep those in mind. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Kenshi and Shujinko here. Yes, if you're gonna ask me if you're going to use Shujinko against Kenshi, yes, use Shujinko. Make Kenshi get a taste for his own medicine. I've showed you guys how to set it up with Liu Kang in the corner. I know there's a little bit of tricky timing required for it, but once you guys learn it, it's gonna be a nightmare for the Kenshi player. And all the other moves you get access to. Down Back Kameo up is a good combo starter. Down Forward Kameo is safe on block against Kenshi, and he can't punish it. You know, Down Forward Kameo down, the push block has so many things that I bet you the Kenshi player doesn't even know himself. And you can take advantage of those sorts of things. So yeah, definitely give Shujinko a try with your main character, especially Liu Kang against Kenshi with Shujinko. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. Now we're going to move on to Liu Kang and Kitana with Shujinko in the mix. Kitana gives Shujinko access to 3 unique moves. The first unique move that you get access to is Down Back Kameo. You can see that this move hits the opponent twice if you're very close to them. The first hit is a high, then it is a mid. It starts up at 21 frames and is -18 on block, so fully punishable by Kitana. If you do this move after Back Kameo or Forward Kameo, it starts up in 11 frames, so it starts up much faster, but is still fully punishable on block. Now you're going to say there is a high on the first hit. Does it jail? And as you can see, if I go to duck the high, I get caught by the first hit of the fan. So yes, Back Kameo into Down Back Kameo does jail. The high does jail on block. So if you're a Kitana player, you know, just be patient, block it. But if they try and get cheeky, you get a full combo for it. There's always a gap between the first hit and the second hit of this move, as you can see. It still happens if you do it like this. So this gap can be armored through. So if Kitana pleases, she can armor through the last hit if she wants to. I don't know why you would want to do this, but she has the option to armor through the gap. Other than that, she could literally just block it and punish you. This move is usually going to be your combo starter / extender that you're going to use in all of your Liu Kang Shujinko combos, basically, against Kitana. There are also variations of this one move, which is Down Back Kameo back. If I move over to the default section of the screen. There we go, mid-screen. You're going to see that it very closely whips on her and goes very closely to me. Whereas if I did the normal version, it hits her, right? It keeps going. And if I go full screen, there's a forward version that goes full screen, basically. Just out of full screen range. If you do it from here, obviously you're going to clip her. So, yes, keep that in mind. You don't have to use down back cameo back specifically in combos, especially the corner combos. You don't have to. If you want, you can use down back cameo back in the corner if you feel like it's easier for you. But you can also just use down back cameo, the normal input, and it will always combo. So yeah, moving on to the next one. Now we have down forward cameo. And you're going to see that it is Kitana's ass, which is enhanced wave, but in this case it's Shujinko's ass. And it is a high. It starts up in 17 frames. It looks like it's very quick, but it's not as fast as it looks. And as you can see, it is -12 on block. You can cancel this move after forward or back cameo, and this does change the frame data to 7 frames, so then it does become very fast. So you're probably wondering if back cameo into down forward cameo jails on block, and well, you guys are going to see that it does jail on block. So Kitana does have to eat, or not basically eat, but take Shujinko's ass. Yeah. Yeah, it's still -12, so she could just block it, you know, and punish you. I'm pretty sure her punish from here would be like back 2 or something. What is back 2? It's too slow. She'd punish you at 1 though, you know. So she can definitely punish your -12, which is, you know, fully punishable. And you know that it jails, so if the Kitana player is a bit cheeky and I think they can get underneath Shujinko's ass, they can. And yeah. Let's move on to the next move, which is down forward cameo down. This is a projectile, as you can see. It hits high. It also starts up in 19 frames. It starts up in 19 frames and is -6 from here, but if you get right in front of her face, it's -7. By no means of the imagination can Kitana punish this move, because Kitana is a 7 frame character. She cannot punish 7 frames. When you do this move from front cameo or back cameo, it doesn't change the properties of the move. It is a high projectile, so the further more you move back, the less minus and the more plus it ends up being, right? It's 19 frames, so I'm sure Kitana could answer back with her own fan if she wanted. And I'm sure you're wondering if it jails on block. I'm here to tell you that it doesn't. She can fully duck this move and punish you. Right? Her punish is 1-1, not 1-2. So yeah, she can fully punish you for doing this. So this means that this being -7 after back cameo doesn't mean that much if the Kitana player knows that they can just duck the fan. So yeah, keep that in mind. And yeah, that's pretty much for Kitana. Do I recommend that you use Shujinko against Kitana? It's highly debatable. I personally don't think it's worth it. The combos are a little weird as well. Yeah, everything is either punishable or duckable that you get with Shujinko against Kitana, so you also have to take that into consideration. And that's sort of why I don't recommend using Shujinko against Kitana. I think there's just better uses for him against other characters. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. So now we're going to move on to Shujinko against Kung Lao, basically. And Kung Lao gives Shujinko access to 4 unique moves. The first one being Down Back Kameo. This move is weird, and I don't know why they gave it to Shujinko, but let's talk about it anyway. You can see it starts up in 31 frames and is minus 11 on block. So if you do this, 31 frames and minus 11. So fully punishable, especially against a 6-frame character. And if you do it after front Kameo or back Kameo, you can see it changes the startup frames to 21 frames, which is a little faster, but still able to be blocked and punished. This move has an option, which is really odd, to be held down. You can see. You can obviously move him around as you saw. Yeah, I don't know what the benefit of that is. Also, doesn't matter how long you hold it down for or where you hit him from, even behind him, it's still minus 11. So, yeah, I don't know why Liu Kang doesn't just recover during the startup frames after the, initial 31, and then you just hold the Kameo button down. But yeah, this is a highly flawed move. Don't know why they gave it to him. It's terrible, don't use it. Yeah, let's move on to the goddamn next one, which is Down Back Kameo Down. This move is basically your main combo extender. It's not your main combo starter, we'll get onto that move in a sec, but as you can see, it starts up in 5 frames. It is very fast. It's probably one of, if not the fastest moves in the game. And as you can see, it is minus 15 on block. If you do this move after front Kameo or back Kameo, it doesn't change the frame data in any way, shape or form. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't use it on block. Use it to extend your combos for some more damage. And yeah, that's literally how you use Down Back Kameo Down. Just use it for your combos. Now let's talk about Down Back Kameo Up. You can see it starts up in 21 frames and is minus 25 on block. It also hits high. This move does not change if you use it after Forward Kameo or Back Kameo, so just keep that in mind. I don't know why I did the front input, but yeah, there we go. So I'm sure this move is a high, so I'm sure you guys are wondering, wow, does it jail on block? I'm about to show you. It does not. So on top of it being minus 25 and being able to be ducked after a frontal Kameo input, it's extremely punishable. Don't use this move on block at all in any circumstance. However, this move is a great combo starter for you. As you can see, you're going to get some pretty decent damage out of this. 40%. Like, that's good damage. And yeah, you're basically going to use it to start your grounded combos. And like I said before, you're going to use Down Back Kameo Down to extend your combos that have the opponent that is already airborne. Let's move on to Down Forward Kameo. Down Forward Kameo is a high projectile. Starts up in 28 frames and is minus 6 on block. If you cancel this from front Kameo or back Kameo, it starts up in 18 frames and is still minus 6 on block with pushback. That is correct, with pushback. Obviously this move is a projectile, so it is dependent on range. The further back you get, the less minus and the more plus it is, all that sort of thing. This projectile is a high, so I'm sure you're wondering if it jails or not. And here you go. It is not. And you can simply duck and punish. So even though this is minus 6 with a lot of pushback, if the Kung Lao player doesn't know that, they'll block it. But if they're knowledgeable enough, or they just figure it out, they can just duck the move, even after the forward or back Kameo input. Hat toss can also be used in combos for some damage, because it keeps them suspended in the air for a little bit. But I don't recommend using it in the optimal combos video. You guys will see that I don't use it because he has so many other options that are just better. And yeah, do I recommend that you use Shujinko against Kung Lao? It's extremely debatable, this one. The combos are cool, you know, I guess, but that's about all you get. You don't get anything on block. You don't get anything that, you know, makes you plus on block either. So in my opinion, if I would choose Shujinko against Kung Lao, I would not. But who am I to tell you what to do? Give it a try and let me know what you guys think. Let's move on to the next character. We're going to move on to Liu Kang and Li Mei, with Shujinko obviously in the mix. Li Mei gives Liu Kang access to 3 unique moves. The first being Down Back Kameo. This move is going to be your literal combo starter slash it's actually there's a better option I'll talk about in a few minutes, but this is like your main grounded combo starter. So if you use like 1-2 or 2-2 or forward 4-3, using Down Back Kameo, good option. You're going to notice that Down Back Kameo is also a projectile. It's a projectile and it hits high. Starts up in 26 frames and is -12 on block. Being -12 on block, obviously it's a projectile, so it's dependent on range. The further back you get, the less minus and the more plus it is. But if you cancel this move from front Kameo or back Kameo, you're going to see that it starts up in 16 frames. So this option has a gap, but if you do it off front Kameo or back Kameo, it doesn't have a gap anymore. It can't even be hammered through. But it is still -12 on block, so that she could just block it and punish you. Keep that in mind. Down Back Kameo up. Now this is an interesting one. It gives you access to Li Mei's Sky Lantern. You can see that it doesn't hit Li Mei in any way, shape or form. In fact, let's go full screen here because I want to show you guys a few things. This move starts up in 56 frames. If you did it up close from Forward Kameo or Back Kameo, you can see it starts up a lot faster. And this is basically so you can get some very good damage in your fatal blow combos, especially in the corner. What other use does this move have? If you don't use it for the fatal blow combo, obviously, you can use it to literally just lock down the air. This will just stop her from jumping, but remember that this move takes 56 frames to start up, which means Li Mei from full screen could literally just dash in a little bit and then punish you with her back forward 4 because you're still going to be stuck in animation for so long. Unlike Li Mei's version, you can actually ignite her Sky Lantern to go towards the opponent, right? And it will go towards the opponent and it will hit them. As a main, whatever your main character is, with Shujinko, you don't get access to this feature for whatever reason. You can see I have multiple projectiles in the air with Liu Kang, and it does not ever ignite the Sky Lantern. So yeah, you can't use it in the same way that Li Mei can, but you can use it to lock down the air and be a little bit cheeky, try not to get punished during that. And Obviously use it for further blow combos. It does a lot of damage and doesn't scale very hard, so yeah. Now we move on to Down Forward Kameo, and this is the first time I'm going to tell you guys that this one move almost makes playing Shujinko so worth it against Li Mei, my bad. And let's literally see why, right? So Down Forward Kameo starts up in 14 frames and is minus 17 on block. Guess what? If you cancel this move from Forward Kameo or Back Kameo, it starts up in 7 frames and is minus 7 on block. Is minus 7 on block, which means she can't punish you. If she doesn't armor the initial front or back Kameo input, she can't punish this, and this is free safety for you. And it's a little bit of pushback. So in the mid screen, you could be cheeky and dash away if you wanted to. Li Mei also has no way to punish this move in her favor. You're probably saying, well, didn't you just say you couldn't punish it on block, and you said you could punish it if you could armor through Forward Kameo or Back Kameo? Ha, I'm about to prove you wrong. If Li Mei tries to armor through your front Kameo or your Back Kameo input, this is what happens. You trade, and look at the amount of health. Look at the amount of health she loses. It is 15%. And do you know how much damage you take for this trade? 2%. You literally win this trade no matter what. And Li Mei can't punish this move in her favor at all. It just does not work. Also, this move is extremely good for extending combos in the corner, and it's only for half a Kameo meter, which is insane. Which means if you have a full Kameo meter and you only spend the half, by the time you finish a very simple combo with it, you get all of your Kameo meter back because you only have to fill half of it. So you guys will see that in a combo video, but yeah. Do I recommend you use Shujinko against Li Mei? Yes. Just for Down Forward Kameo alone. Just for Down Forward Kameo alone. Yeah, it's cool that you can use Down Back Kameo up in the Fatal Blow combos and it does ridiculous damage. And you have a grounded combo starter with Down Back Kameo, which is pretty good. But Down Forward Kameo, trust me, this is going to be every Li Mei's worst nightmare if they don't understand this matchup. It's going to be extremely bad for them. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we finally get on to our mirror match with Shujinko. This is an interesting one. You get access to 4 unique moves. The first one I'm sure every Liu Kang player is going to be familiar with is your basic meter burn extender or combo starter. You can see it starts up in 8 frames. It's very fast, but is also minus 17 on block if you're right in front of their face. Minus 18? This was minus 17 when I last checked it, but I guess minus 18 is a bit more consistent, so we'll stick with that. It is a high, like usual, but it is also a projectile. It is just like Liu Kang's normal version. It is a full-on projectile. Minus 3 from full screen. You're not losing anything over that from full screen being minus 3. This is going to be like your main combo starter / extender, so you don't have to spend your super meter like you usually do, and you just use the Kameo meter instead. And also, it's a high and it's a projectile, so I'm sure you guys are wondering if it jails. And as you can see, because it starts up in 8 frames, this move cannot be ducked. Now obviously he could just, you know, block it and then punish it with his most damaging punishes, which is back 2-3 and 3-3. Do dash up and 3-3. I don't know why I'm so slow, sorry guys. But yeah, you can get the punish with 3-3 as well if you want. So keep that in mind. But it is your main combo starter and extender. Don't use it on block, obviously. And now we get on to the move that Shujinko got very recently. And that is down back Kameo up. And you can see that it is your anti-air move down back 4. It starts up in 18 frames and is minus 21 on block. So definitely don't be using it on block. Also, doing it after back Kameo or front Kameo does not change the frame data properties on this move. So, do not be using it on block. And I'm sure you guys are wondering, this move is my anti-air. Can I use it as an anti-air? I'm going to tell you not to use it as one, but it does have the same anti-air properties as your down back 4. But when you anti-air the opponent, it is a hard read. You cannot use this move on reaction because, as you can see, like your one just comes out like straight away, even though it's 18 frames as well. If you use Shujinko's version, you can see that he's way in front of you. This makes it a lot harder to actually anti-air the opponent with his version, which means it has to be a hard read. Like, I'm going to get him to jump and I'm going to try and react. Like, I just get kicked in the face, right? But if it's a hard read, as you can see, if it's a hard read, you get the same anti-air properties, and you actually have enough time to dash in and get another back 2-3, and you know, you finish the combo. But it has to be a read. 100% has to be a hard read. You cannot use this on a reactionary basis because Shujinko, even though it's the same startup, is way more further in front of you. So you have a lot less time to actually react and use it. Let's move on to our next move, which is down forward Kameo. Down forward Kameo is going to be your low projectile. Starts up in 20 frames. You can see it is minus 7 on block. So you guys are going to see that if I do a forward Kameo, back Kameo, it does change the startup frames to 13 frames, and it's going to say that it's minus 6. However, the computer is wrong. When you block this as the opponent, it's actually minus 8. As you can see, my 7 frame punish fully catches the minus 8. So it is not minus 6. It is minus 8 in every way, shape or form when you are close to the opponent. Even if you do it this way, it's still punished. So as you guys can see, it is minus 8, not minus 6. So it's a bit of a knowledge check for the other Liu Kang player, if they know about it, right? If they don't know about it, trying to punish with the 6 frame doesn't reach, and dashing up and punishing with the 6 frame doesn't reach. You have to punish with the 7 frame. So yeah, it is a knowledge check. Be careful about how you use it on block, but you do lose your turn. Do keep that in mind. And let's talk about our last move, which is down forward Kameo up. And Shujinko got this move recently as well, to my knowledge. And this gives you access to a version of your aerial projectile that is an instant air perfect every single time. It's as close as he can get to the ground with it as well. You can see it starts up in 15 frames and is minus 8 on block. And it's a projectile, and just like front Kameo was, they're projectiles, so they are range dependent. You can cancel your down forward Kameo into from your back cameo or your front cameo. As you can see, it's still -7 with a bit of pushback, and it starts up in 15 frames, which means there technically isn't a gap. However, you can always duck this move and punish very easily if you see this move come out. If your opponent doesn't know, right, it's a huge knowledge check. But they can also just down one you to take their turn back, you know what I mean, and disable Shujinko. But if they know the proper punish, you know, they can just fully open you up every single time. So don't be using it on block willy-nilly against another Liu Kang player. Also, this punish has some extra combo gravity, so don't use this move honestly in general to on block and in combos. It's just not worth it. In terms of overall, should you use Shujinko against, you know, a Liu Kang mirror match? No, it's not worth it. Even the damage from the combos is not worth it. You get more damage with other cameos. The moves you get are, you know, punishable in some way, shape or form. Punishable on block, you can duck and punish. Everything is punishable that you get with Shujinko against the Liu Kang mirror match. So yeah, I highly advise that you don't use Shujinko in a Liu Kang mirror match. Let's move on to the next one. So we're going to move on to Shujinko against Mileena. Mileena gives you access to 3 unique moves. The first one being Down Back Kameo, which is Mileena's typical ball roll. You can see that it hits mid, it's not a low, just like Mileena's version in this game. And it starts up in 22 frames and is -33 on block, which is very, very punchable. It works sort of like a projectile, so the further back you get, the harder it is to punish. If you do it from full screen, you know, it doesn't quite reach, so keep that in mind. Just inside full screen though, you can see it's -28. I'm sure Mileena could punish this in some way, so don't be using it in the neutral. However, if you cancel this move after Forward Kameo or Back Kameo, it starts up in 12 frames. It's still -33 on block, right? But there is no longer an harmable gap between the moves. Mileena can also just, you know, block and punish instead of having to hammer, but you never know what the other player is thinking. This is your only and your main combo starter and extender as Shujinko against Mileena. Every single time you do a combo, you're going to be using Down Back Kameo. And you guys will see that in the combo section. The next move is going to be Down Forward Kameo. It's a projectile, hits high, starts up in 28 frames and is -7 on block. It's a projectile, so it's dependent on range, right? Further back you get, the more plus and less minus it is. If you do this move after front cameo or back cameo, you can see it starts up in 18 frames, so that's 10 frames faster than the usual amount, which is, you know, just doing that, which has a gap. This no longer has a gap, and you're probably wondering, it's a high projectile, so does it jail? So we're going to use Back Kameo here, and as you can see, it doesn't jail, which means you can just duck and punish Liu Kang for using this, or Shujinko, I should say, whoever your main character is with Shujinko. Unlike Mileena's version, however, actually, we'll pick Mileena real quick and go full screen. Unlike Mileena's version, you're going to see that her projectile actually doesn't travel full screen, and neither does this one. However, when you're Shujinko, yours does, right? So that is one added benefit that you get over Mileena in her own move, basically. Let's move on to the next one, which is Down Forward Kameo Down. This move is the low side that we were just did as Mileena. You'll see it starts up in 20 frames and is minus 24 on block. So yes, it is extremely punishable on block. Even if you do this move after Forward Kameo or Back Kameo, it does not change the frame data on the startup or block. And like I said, unlike Mileena's version, it travels full screen. And obviously it's projectiles, so the less minus it is, the more plus it is, the further back you are. Don't use this move on block. I honestly don't know what you'd use this for unless you are trying to hit her from full screen with a low. But yeah, that's literally Mileena. Mileena is very simple character to play against and play as. So, do I recommend you use Shujinko against Mileena? Nah, not really. Nah. The only fun fact is that you get the combos, but the combos could be more with like another cameo anyway. The high size don't jail on block, so you know, you just get punished for it, and the low size, God forbid you do the unblock up close, you also get punished for it. So yeah, everything you get, she can basically punish any way, shape or form. And yeah, I don't recommend using Shujinko against Mileena. Let's move on to that. Okay guys, so we're going to move on to Shujinko against Nitara. Nitara gives Shujinko access to 3 unique moves. The first one being Down Back Kameo, which is Nitara's sort of air rush move. You can see that it hits high, right? It also starts up in 19 frames and is minus 6 on block. This move, when done after Forward Kameo or Back Kameo, however, changes it to 9 frames and is still minus 6 on block. Now this is one of the rare circumstances where you're going to see a very fast high not jailing on block. So yeah, even though it starts up in 9 frames, you can see it's clearly duckable and punishable. So just keep that in mind when using this move. Even though it is only minus 6 on block, it can be ducked. This move also has an extension by holding down when Shujinko has reached the top of his flight, which is this here. And you can see he comes down. Now you can see this drastically changes the frame data. The second move comes out in 12 frames in the air, but is minus 21 on block, so fully punishable. I definitely recommend do not using this move on block. This move basically is only good for combos. Talking about the normal version and the down version is only really good for combos. So make sure you do only use it in your combos instead of trying to abuse it on block, because if the Nitara player knows that it doesn't jail, they can just duck and punish you, and that's basically 30 to 40% of your life gone, so keep that in mind. Next we have Down Back Kameo Up, and this move here is Nitara's Blood Sacrifice. You can see it takes a long startup, 71 frames. It doesn't hit the opponent, so like, you know, there's no block advantage or anything, but there are recovery frames, obviously. This move also after Back Kameo or Forward Kameo starts up in 20 frames. But just remember, in those 20 frames, she can just punish you. So I want to show you guys, you can see that clearly says punish. And that's only with her 1-2, I'm pretty sure. She has a higher damage combo starter that will probably punish you for sure, so keep that sort of things in mind. And this move, what does it do to you and what does it do to her? Down Back Kameo Up, you can see that it takes 0.5% of your health to activate. Right there. When done in close proximity to Nitara, you'll see that it ends up gaining a maximum of 11% from her. This is a maximum amount of 11%. So during your combos, you know, if you open it up on wake up sort of thing, you can do extra damage on your combo. So keep that in mind. But this is pretty hard to activate, and just like a few moves I mentioned before, like Kenshi's Sento, you have to sort of sacrifice some damage out of your previous combo to activate this safely. And then that way you can use your forward 4 to armor break in case it's needed, and use your 1-2 on wake up, all that sort of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much that move in a nutshell. Next is Down Forward Kameo. You're going to see that it starts up in 21 frames. It's pretty quick and is -7 on block, which is actually pretty good. When this move is done after Forward Kameo or Back Kameo, you can see that it only starts up in 11 frames and is still -7 on block. And you're going to see that this move hits high. So I'm sure you guys are wondering if this move jails, and let's have a look. And I try and duck the move. It hits me. It hits me as soon as I go to duck it. So it does jail. It can't be ducked, and it is -7, which is fully safe against Nitara. Nitara cannot punish this move whatsoever. You see, like, you just, she doesn't even reach. I do down 1, I'm pretty sure that's 9 frame, 7. But yeah, even though it hits him, it's no punish, and there's no counter. So, it's okay to use on block. Just remember that Nitara can't punish it, and you do lose your turn after it. This move can also be used in the corner for basically meterless combos in circumstances that you usually wouldn't, and you only have to use half a Kameo meter for the move. Would I recommend that you use Shujinko against Nitara? No, not really. Down Back Kameo and the extension with down is okay, but the combo gravity is a bit weird. It is your main combo starter / extender against her, but it does have some weird gravity scaling. Nitara's Blood Sacrifice is not worth using, in my opinion, especially if you're trying to compete or, you know, actually trying to win against someone. And Down Forward Kameo, even though that is actually pretty good, you do lose your turn, and it only kind of gives you the combo extension / combo starter in the corner. So Shujinko against Nitara, not worth it in my opinion, but who's going to stop you from trying it, right? Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so now we move on to Shujinko against Raiden. You're going to see that Raiden gives Shujinko access to 3 of his moves, and the first one being Down Back Kameo. You can see that this gives access to Raiden's enhanced teleport for the full Kameo meter. Starts up in 27 frames and is -2 on block. So yeah, this is already off to a good start. If you do this move after front Kameo or back Kameo, you're going to see that it starts up in 20 frames and it's still -2, which means Raiden only has one way to punish this move, and it technically doesn't even punish, and that's to use his armored move, which is his electric fly. By the way, this move is your main combo starter / extender, so keep that in mind. This is what it looks like when Raiden tries to armor through the second hit after front or back Kameo. You can see he just flies to the other side of the screen, and it's technically not a punish, even though he gets out of the situation. A more confirmed way, right, would be to armor straight through the front or back Kameo, but that's a knowledge check for the Raiden player. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to the move. It's safe on block, it has a gap, no matter how you do it, and yeah, it's your usual combo starter / combo extender. Keep that sort of thing in mind. Now we move on to Down Forward Kameo. And this is an interesting move. First of all, you can see that it's a projectile and it hits high. Starts up in 32 frames and is minus 12 on block. Doing this move after front Kameo or back Kameo changes the startup frames to 25 and doesn't change the frame data on block. So still punishable and still punishable. However, I'm sure you're wondering if this move jails. Let's have a look. So does this move jail after back Kameo? We're going to find out. Obviously it does not. The startup frames I think are just too long and he gets the easy punish of 1-2. You could also do another punish, but I'm not a Raiden player, so I'm sure they can figure that out. This move also has an option to be held down. I'm going to talk about this move in terms of if you cancel it from front or back Kameo and not doing it just raw, because the startup frames are way too long and you can get interrupted anyway. So never use the move just like this because there's just a gap and he could just punish it. Always use front or back Kameo into it. And this move, like I was saying, has the option to be held down. So you can see that's 1 orb is minus 12. 3 orbs is plus 1 with some pushback. 5 orbs is plus 14 with a lot of pushback. And the 6 orbs is plus 20 with the most amount of pushback that you're going to get. I quickly showed you guys that. Just want to quickly say that if you get to 3 orbs after a front or back Kameo, like this, so from 3 to 6, Raiden can just punish with any of his moves, which includes 1-2, 2-4, forward 2, 3-4, forward 3, and forward 4. So he can punish, he can just straight up interrupt you charging between 3 and 6 orbs. So even though 3 orbs gives you plus 1, it's kind of not worth it because he can just interrupt you with no blowback for him, right? Obviously you have the option to let go of this move whenever you want if you think he's going to do a move and catch him. But if he blocks it and it's only 1 orb, it's minus 12 and he's going to punish you anyway. So keep that in mind. We're going to move on to the next move, which is down forward Kameo down. You can see this is Shujinko doing Raiden's electric fly, the newest version of it in MK1. It starts up in 22 frames and is minus 6 on block. You're also going to see that it hits mid, not high. I'm not sure if Raiden's version does the same, but your version is a mid. So if you do this after front or back Kameo, you're going to see that it's still 22 frames on startup and minus 6, which means if Raiden wants to armor through it with his own electric fly, he can, but he can't interrupt it. And if he respects it, it's minus 6, which Raiden cannot punish. So that's just how the move works. You can use it, obviously, against Raiden. Just be careful about how you use it, because if he decides to armor through it, you're going to get punished. And if he decides to armor through the, the initial forward Kameo or back Kameo input, you also get punished, just like every other move with Shujinko. So get to the part where, do you recommend Shujinko against Raiden? Nah, I do not. I feel like there's other Kameos that do their job better against Raiden specifically. And what Raiden gives Shujinko is not that great. He gives you access to 1 combo starter / extender in down back Kameo, which is okay. It's also minus 2 on block, which if he tries to armor through it, he doesn't even punish you, so I guess that is fine. Minus 2 against Raiden is losing your turn though, so do with that what you will. The orb move is, in my opinion, too unviable to use against a good Raiden, and against a mediocre Raiden, if I'm honest. If like Raiden is so easy to play in this game, it's not funny. And down forward Kameo down, it's not even that great of a move. So yeah, overall I don't recommend Shujinko against Raiden, but if you want to use it, go ahead, be my guest. And let's move on to the next one. So let's move on to Shujinko against Rain. Rain gives Shujinko access to 3 of his moves. The first move that he gives Shujinko access to is Down Back Kameo. You can see that it starts up in 30 frames, that is -4 on block, so it has a bit of a gap if you use it like this. However, if you use it after Front Kameo or Back Kameo, you can see that it starts up in 20 frames instead of 30 and is still -4 on block. You can see that this move does hit high, so I'm sure you guys are wondering whether it jails on block or not. And as you guys are going to see, it does not. Rain has no problem ducking this move and punishing. I'm pretty sure he punishes 1-1, yep. So you can easily punish with 1-1. And his standing 1 reaches a lot further than our normal 1-1s do. So even though it's 7 frames, he can punish it very comfortably after ducking. So this move is basically your main grounded combo starter. Let's put it that way, and we're going to talk about the next one, which is your next combo starter / extender. So now we move on to Down Back Kameo Down, and this is a move that Rain usually doesn't have access to because it's very hard for him to set up. But Shujinko gets this move basically for free, and that is the water per portal burst, where he has to Rain would have to set up 2 portals and then use a beam between them, where you just activate it by pressing Down Back Kameo Down. It's very simple. And this move, you can see, starts up in 17 frames and is -13 on block. Doing this move after Front or Back Kameo does not change its properties at all in terms of the data. And this is going to be your main combo extender, basically for when you're comboing your opponent and they are already airborne. This is a good extender because it's faster than Down Back Kameo, and it hits a lot lower to the ground than Down Back Kameo does. And you guys will see that in the optimal combos video when that comes out. Now we move on to Down Forward Kameo, which is the most interesting move you get as Shujinko against Rain. You can see that it starts up in 34 frames, is -1 on block, and is a high. This is obviously dependent on Rain because it's a projectile. It is Rain's water beam move, and as you would know, Rain has the ability to cancel this move, which we'll talk about in a second. When you do this move after Front or Back Kameo, it changes the frame data to 26 frames on starter. Now, in terms of cancelling and holding the move down, yes, you do have the option to hold the Kameo button down after this move, and you can see that he stays still. You're going to see that no matter how long I hold Down Forward Kameo down for, even the entire duration, it doesn't change the frame data on block. It is always -1. And if you want to cancel this move, it actually costs 1 bar of super meter. However, you can see that you recover extremely fast. And this being -1 on block actually makes it quite a mind game. If not for the next part I'm about to talk about. You're going to see that I am going to do Water Beam as fast as possible and just let it go instantly. And you're basically going to see that it doesn't jail on block if you keep holding down. However, you can see that it has a very long amount of active frames, which means if the Rain player stands up too early, they still get hit. So they actually have to time their punish against you, unlike a lot of others of Shujinko's moves. But it is still doable if you just do it super late. And with their 1-1, they can punish you very easily. So it would be great if down forward Kameo jailed on block after your back Kameo, but it does not. So you spending super meter for the cancel makes no sense because Rain knows that it's just fake pressure. However, if the Rain doesn't know and you start using the meter to cancel in front of his face, and because it's a very fast cancel and you recover almost immediately, you know, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Back 2, 1-2, whatever you want. Now, there is one more part to this move, which is, I'm sure you're saying, well, if you charge the move and you can only cancel it with the super meter, that must be the only use for holding the move down. You would be wrong. Just like Rain's move, when you fully charge the water beam, it leaves your opponent, or slash Rain, because you're only going to use it against Rain as Shujinko, in a state in which you can combo them. Right? However, there is no viable way for Liu Kang to fully charge this move during his combos. I'm sure if you guys play other main characters and muck around with this move, you'll probably get something out of it. Maybe moves that hold the opponent down for a long time, like Kitana or Shang Tsung. Or maybe another move that holds the opponent for a very long time in the air, so you can get this move off. But as for Liu Kang, he can't use it basically in his combos because his combos are too fast, they happen too quickly for this move to even remotely work on them, on Rain specifically. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Rain. Do I recommend that you use Shujinko against Rain? It's okay. If you want to use it, use it. If you don't want to use it, I don't blame you. Down Back Kameo does a lot of damage in your combos. You guys will figure that out very fast when you watch my optimal combo video. Down Back Kameo down is not too bad. It's okay. But you don't have any moves that are quote unquote safe on block against him. And take you get again as Shujinko, so you have to keep that in mind. You're basically regular Liu Kang with a few extra moves, and that's about it. So use it, but don't expect it to give you great success against a Rain player, especially if they know what they're doing. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Alright guys, so we're obviously going to start talking about Shujinko against Reiko. First things first, Reiko gives Shujinko access to 4 unique moves. The first one being Down Back Kameo. You can see that this move is a throw. It being a throw is actually a command grab, which means against Reiko, as Shujinko, you actually get a command grab. This move starts up in 20 frames, as you can see, and hits the opponent and leaves them in a state where you can follow up, per se, just like Reiko does. However, doing this after front or back Kameo changes it into a 10 frame move. However, you can see that Shujinko completely whiffs the command grab. It is a high command grab, by the way, I forgot to mention that. But you can see after frontal back Kameo, it whiffs on block. So, how do you use this move? Well, previously I mentioned that usually you don't want to use a move like this. But in terms of this move, you actually do. Because it needs the 20 frame gap startup to make it a command grab that actually hits them. Or hits Reiko specifically. Now obviously I mentioned that this is a high command grab here, so doing things like strings straight into it obviously work, right? All of them work. However, there are counters to this move. This is the first counter, which is very simple. It's just ducking. When you duck, you can duck and punish very, very easily. Right, you can also jump out of it, and if you really wanted to, you can also armor through it. So those are your three options. You can duck, you can jump, and you can armor through it. Obviously the easiest way to punish this move would be just straight up ducking. And then, I don't know, Reiko combos, but yeah. Now, you're probably thinking, well, it's a high, so how am I ever going to get Reiko to actually block this? Because it's 20 frame startup, which arguably is reactable, even online. So you have moves where like forward 4-4, right? Where you could cancel into this, and the only difference is a 3 frame startup. However, if they go to flawless block the move, right, they can just option select it. So now you're left in a predicament where you have 1-2-1, 21 frames, and this is 20 frames, right? So you could do this. That also works. You have 2-2-1. This is a lot quicker at 15 frames. So this might actually, more often than not, catch your opponent with 2-2. And if you cancel 2-2, you're plus anyway. So 2-2 is a great string to cancel into. And the last good string that you can cancel into is one that you probably don't use that often as Liu Kang, but you do use it every now and then, is 3-2. 3-2, especially the 2 part, the second hit, starts up in 17 frames and is plus 2. But most importantly, it's an overhead, which means the opponent wants to stand block this. Which means you could do 3 into command grab, and that's going to be basically your very common mind game. So you have 2-2 into command grab, you have 2-2-1, you have 3-2, and you have 3 into command grab. So those are basically your options. Down Back Kameo as Shujinko is also your most common combo extender. Not really your main combo starter, but it's more of a combo extender, and you guys will see why in the optimal combo video. Let's move on to Down Back Kameo Up. This move is Reiko's parry. You can see that this move doesn't show up with the startup frames on the frame data. However, assuming that it's the same as Reiko's version, it starts up in 8 frames. However, this move can be used consistently to parry the following strings. So this move is a little finicky in where the active frames aren't as long as they basically should be. And there are some strings that you can viably use this of. So 1-2 for example, into it, does parry pretty well. You also have 2-2, can parry pretty well against most of Reiko's moves. 3-3-3 parries pretty well, not 3-3. 3-3-3 into the parry, parries pretty well as well. And you have forward 4-3 of course, which goes into the parry. If Reiko decides to take his turn back as fast as possible, and he goes to take his turn back with his fastest move, which is down 1 or standing 1, which are 7 frame moves, he gets parried and you get a full combo off this. As you guys are going to see, if Reiko tries to take his turn back with a raw command grab, it works against your parry and you get a full combo. As you see, and then easy peasy, right? This also works off 2-2. It also works off 3-3-3. It also works off forward 4. So yeah, that works as well. There's a bit of a delay between when you start the combo and stuff. And just to show you guys that 3-3 doesn't work instead of 3-3-3. You can see that he hits Shujinko, whereas if you do this version, it works. This also works for his 7-frame moves, standing 1 and down 1. However, you'll see that when I did do 3-3 into the parry, it hits Shujinko, which means even though you don't recover in time, you actually retain your turn. So, just keep that in mind. And this move, even though I said it parries 1 straight after your turn and the command grab, he can also use slower moves like 2 or 3 or 4, all the other moves that he has, and they will consistently punish you. So keep that in mind. It only works against standing 1, down 1 and the command grab. So yeah, not that great of a move, but it is there as an option. Now the next move we get is down Forward Kameo. You can see that this is usually Reiko's armored move, and you can see that it starts up in 29 frames and it's minus 14 on block. However, cancelling it after front or back Kameo makes it start up in 19 frames, which means it no longer has a gap and he has to block it, but it is still minus 14 on block, which means it can be just blocked and punished by Reiko. It's not that great a move. You can use it to end combos if you like, but it's not the best move by any means at all. And the last move that you get is down Forward Kameo down, which is Reiko's annoying throwing stars move. As you can see, you only get the regular version, not the enhanced version, so it's only 3 projectiles instead of 5, and they all hit high. It starts up in 16 frames, so it is a decently fast move, and is minus 8 up close with a bit of pushback, even if I'm right in his face. Minus 8 right here, not punishable by Reiko's standards at all. If you do this move after front Kameo or back Kameo, you guys are going to see it's still minus 8, still starts up in 16 frames, and is still completely safe. He cannot punish me from here with any 7-frame move by any means. Obviously it is a projectile, so the more further back you get, the less minus it is and the more plus it becomes, so keep that in mind when it's blocked. And I did mention before that all the hits are high, so I'm sure you're wondering if it jails or not, and I have the answer for you, which is it does not. So do not use this move as a pressure move. As you guys can see, it doesn't jail and you get straight up punished for it. So it is fake pressure, but if the Reiko player doesn't know about it, right, it works out for you. If they do, obviously don't use it and you're going to get punished. And yeah, that's about it for his moves. Would I recommend that you use Shujinko against Reiko? Yeah, I kind of would. The only reason is because it's a bit more fun than other characters, because you finally get access to a command grab. And the command grab lets Reiko have a taste of his own medicine, which is pretty funny. The command grab is actually a good mind game with Liu Kang. I'm not sure how good it is with other characters. I'm sure characters like Melina with a million overheads will benefit from this a lot. I think Omni-Man has a lot of overheads, weird overheads as well, so that will work out for him too, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, is it the best thing ever? No, but you do get access to a pretty fun move, and it is, and honestly, this pick of Shujinko against Reiko is pretty dependent on whether the Reiko move player actually knows about how to punish the ninja stars on block or not. So yeah, that's about it, and let's move on to the next one. So now we move on to our next matchup, which is Shujinko against Reptile. Reptile gives you access to Shujinko with 4 unique moves, and probably one of the more interesting moves that you get. Probably not the best, but they are pretty interesting. Now the first move you get is Down Back Kameo. You can see that it starts up in 26 frames and is -4 on block. When this move is done after Back Kameo or Forward Kameo, it only starts up in 16 frames and is -4. You're also going to see that this move hits twice and they are both mid, which means if you do this move after Back Kameo, it's a fully mid string that is -4 on block, which means Reptile's not going to punish you for this unless he uses armor to get through the front Kameo or the Back Kameo input, because there's not enough time to get the armor through the 16 frames. So that works pretty well against him. You're also going to notice that this move gets 3 different options with itself. These 3 options determine the speed of the projectile and the distance of the projectile. So if I do Down Back Kameo back, you're going to see that it's a very slow projectile and it only goes very close in front of me. However, if I do the normal one, it goes at a normal speed and only goes half screen, just beyond half screen. And if I do the far version, it goes very quickly, goes full screen, and it travels very fast. It doesn't consistently hit at full screen, but it is meant to go full screen. Now, I'm sure you guys are wondering, if you do the close version, you can see it starts up in 51 frames rather than the normal 26. If you do this after front or back Kameo, the game loses in showing you its startup frames. So I highly recommend just using the normal force ball on block. And it's -4 and Reptile really can't do anything about it besides armor through the front or back Kameo. Also, this move is your main combo starter / extender. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a very straightforward move. It has a few different things here and there, but it's not too intricate, unlike other moves. Now we move on to Down Back Kameo Down. And this move is Reptile's Rush. You can see it starts up in 10 frames. It's very fast and is -18 on block. So you definitely don't want to get caught with this. Otherwise, Reptile is going to make you eat a lot of damage. If you do this move after front or back Kameo, you're going to see that it doesn't change the startup frames and does not change the block advantage. So like I said, make sure you do not hit Reptile with this on block. However, if this move is not blocked, you're going to see that the first hit is a mid, then it hits an overhead. This is exactly like Reptile's armored move, except you don't have armor, and if it gets blocked, the second move never comes out on block. It only comes out on hit. As you can see, this is going to be your main grounded combo starter / extender. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Another very good combo move. Now we move on to Down Forward Kameo, which is Reptile's Spit. Now I'm going to move back just to show you that is the spit, not the ball. We'll talk about the ball in a second. But up close, this has 30 frames of startup and is -2 on block, which is actually pretty good. Now, when you do this after forward or back Kameo, you guys are going to see that it only starts up in 20 frames and is -2. You'll probably also notice that it hits high. So, I'm sure you're wondering if this move is jailable or not. I'm sure you guys are wondering if this move jails on block, and here you guys are going to see that it does not. As you guys can see, the punish is pretty difficult. If you're a Reptile main, I'm sure you're going to get this down, no problem. But online, I think with a bit of lag, this move may not be punishable online, just because the active frames are so long and there's a very small window to punish. You just remember that you do have an option to just armor through it for an easier punish. And you can also armor through the initial front or back Kameo input. It is pretty difficult to get a full combo punish, but like you guys saw, you can. It's just with a bit of lag online, it may be a lot more difficult to punish than it already is. The next and last move that you get as Shujinko is down forward Kameo up. I'm going to move back so I can show you guys. That is actually the spit ball, not the actual up close spit. And obviously up close, this starts up in 23 frames and is -4 on block. If you do this move after forward or back Kameo, it doesn't change the frame data at all. And you can see that it hits high, so I'm sure you guys are wondering whether it jails or not. So you guys are going to see that it doesn't jail, and it's very easy to punish. Unlike the acid spit. So if there's a Liu Kang player using this against you, have no worry. This is a lot easier to punish than the acid spit was. And the acid ball obviously doesn't jail on block. I also want to quickly mention that the down forward Kameo up is a projectile, just keep that in mind. So the further back you get, the more plus it is and the less minus it is, even from full screen on block. So just keep that in mind also. So yeah, that's pretty much it with Reptile. It gives you access to some interesting moves. The acid spit being one of the more annoying moves for Reptile mains to deal with, or well, deal against, because the active frames are so long and it's really hard to punish unless you spend some armor. That's like the only counterable consistent way to punish it online. But yeah, other than that, you get like some pretty cool combos with this. Do I recommend that you use Shujinko against Reptile? Not really. But if you're looking for something that's just fun and you're not really looking to compete or win against Reptile, but you're just there to play a fun cameo against Reptile, yeah, Shujinko is definitely fun, but not the best. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Shujinko against the Scorpion. You're going to see that Scorpion also gives Shujinko access to 4 unique moves. First one being the notorious spear down back Kameo. See, it starts up in 27 frames, so you know it's not too bad, but it's -3 on block. And if you do this move after forward Kameo or back Kameo, you can see it starts up 10 frames faster, which means it doesn't even have an armorable gap. And Scorpion is a 7 frame character, which means -3 against him is completely safe. And being 17 frames on startup is also, he just can't armor through it. Obviously you can armor through the initial back Kameo or front Kameo input, but it's actually really good. And you are going to see that the spear does hit high on, you are going to see that the spear hits high. However, I'm sure you guys are wondering whether it jails on block. And the answer to that is yes, it does. Which means Scorpion can't duck this, he can't armor it, he can't interrupt it. He has to literally eat this on block. Now obviously if you did a front Kameo input, he can duck it and punish you. But if you do back Kameo into down back Kameo, he has to duck it. He has to block it. Otherwise he's just going to get comboed for it. This move is obviously going to be your main combo starter / extender, and I think the only one if I'm not mistaken. However, all I can say is this combo starter / extender with the spear for Liu Kang is one of the best moves you get as a combo move as Liu Kang. It does a lot of damage, it gets you a lot of combos in a lot of places that you initially wouldn't have, and you guys will see that in the optimal combo video. But yeah, it's really insane. We're going to move on to the next move, which is down back Kameo down. This move is Scorpion's unblockable crap hole move, if I'm totally honest. This move starts up in 31 frames, as you guys can see. And doing this move after front or back Kameo does not change the properties at all, and it still starts up in 31 frames. Now, I'm sure you guys are wondering, is there a use for this move? If you want my honest opinion, no, there really isn't. It's not even possible because down back Kameo inputs take up your entire Kameo meter. So even if they did, you'd have to leave them in a grounded state to get this, and it's just not worth it. When you see that when you guys see the damage that it does, when you do the move, it does do the initial 6% damage, and you guys are going to see that it only does 0.5% damage, or 0.5 damage, which is insane. It's minuscule, and this is the same. It goes for Scorpion's original move on this as well. The only way this move could be useful against Scorpion is if you have the life lead and he has, you know, only 6% or less health left, and then you get him in a standard state, in a standing restored state, and he tries to get out of it, then it's a guaranteed 6% and you kill him. But yeah, other than that situation, it is not going to help you. And our next move is down Forward Kameo. This is, I don't know what it's called with Scorpion, some weird name, but it's basically the spear that goes in a circle, and it's meant to be a combo ender. You can see it starts up in 21 frames and is -9 on block. This move after Forward Kameo or Back Kameo changes the startup frames to 11 frames, which means there is no gap at all, cannot be interrupted, cannot be armored. But it is still -9, which, guess what? Scorpion has one of the best punishers when it comes to being at a distance, which is standing 2. He can also just quickly dash up with his 7 frame and hit you with a 1-2 as well. So it's not a good move. I highly recommend not using down Forward Kameo. Now the next move is down Forward Kameo up, and you're going to see that Shujinko does the teleport that Scorpion would usually have. This, you can see, starts up in 24 frames and is +2 on block, which is pretty handy for you as a Liu Kang player. When you do this move after Forward Kameo or Back Kameo, you guys are going to see that it does not change the frame data at all in terms of startup or block advantage. So, what does this mean for you? And it is a high, so I'm sure you guys are wondering if it jails or not. And the answer to that is no. Scorpion can easily just duck and punish this extremely easily, with basically any punish he wants. Even the long ass 116 frames. So yeah, definitely it's a knowledge check for the Scorpion player, really. It also uses half Kameo meter, so if the Scorpion player doesn't know about it, yeah, they're not gonna have a lot of fun against you. But if they do, obviously don't go using it, because they can just duck and full combo you. And yeah, that's literally all of Scorpion's moves. Very simple character with Shujinko. Now, do I advise that you use Shujinko against Scorpion in a matchup? No, not really. Unless you want to have some like fun combos, which you do have access to with Shujinko against Scorpion. I absolutely advise, if you're looking for fun combos, you have something to look forward to. But all the other moves, the Unblockable, the stupid spinning spear move, and the teleport, they're all terrible. All terrible moves that Shujinko gets. And he always has a way to punish them. Always. I know you can use the spear on block and it's safe against him, but considering that you get 4 moves and only 1 move against Scorpion is good, in my opinion, it's just not worth it. But if you're looking for fun combos, it's there. And yeah, on to the next one. Move on to Shujinko against Shang Tsung. And wow, this is an interesting one. It really is. you have access to 4 unique moves, and technically a lot more, and we're going to talk about it straight away. So first of all, I start off with the down back cameo move, like always with against every single character. And when Shujinko has your full cameo meter and you press down back cameo, you get access to whatever Shujinko's cameo is. So you just saw Shujinko turns into Shang Tsung's cameo Sector. This goes for anything. So if Shang Tsung picks Cyrax, he'll turn into Cyrax. If he picks Janet Cage, he'll turn into Janet Cage. It doesn't matter any cameo he picks. If you press down back cameo, you'll have access to his cameo. Let's talk about how this move affects you as a player. First of all, I just want to say that if you pick Shujinko against Shang Tsung with any character, you're proving that you literally have probably one of the biggest brains in this game, right? Because not only do you have to know what Shang Tsung and his cameo does, but you have to know what your main character does with Shujinko's cameo, with Shang Tsung's cameo, which could be anything. And that shows that you know the knowledge about every single cameo in the game, which is wild. Now, I did say that this is a down back cameo input, so you do have to have a fully charged cameo meter to turn Shujinko into Shang Tsung's cameo. Once this happens, Shujinko turns into Shang's cameo for 13 seconds. So you only have 13 seconds of Sector right now, and then that will go away. Once that goes away, you get turned back into Shujinko. Obviously there's no visual indicator besides on your cameo meter. You can see that it's yellow. When it's yellow, you are currently using Sector. But when it goes back to orange, you have gone back to Shujinko, which is right about now. Yeah, there we go. That is literally it for this move. Also, I'm going to say on the top right hand corner of the screen right now, I'm going to pop up a card. If you want to know how to play Liu Kang with all the other cameos, because you have to know it if you use Shujinko against Shang Tsung, you can use the top right hand corner. I'm going to put the card up right now, and you can use that to know what to do as Liu Kang plus whatever Shang's cameo is, for example. So yeah, that's pretty much this move in a nutshell. You get access to a whole different bunch of cameos depending on what Shang Tsung picks. Moving on to the next move. You have access to down back cameo down. So this move, you can see, is Shang Tsung's 3 ground skulls. This version goes from close to far. You can see it starts up in 22 frames and is minus 32 on block. When you do this move after front or back cameo, it does not change the properties at all. And I'm just going to say this for now. Do not use it on block, obviously. And this can only be used in certain combos with Liu Kang. With other characters, I'm not so sure. But with Liu Kang, it's extremely limited in the combos that you can use. But you guys will see that in the combos, optimal combos video. Moving on to the next one, we have down back cameo up. This move gives access to the ground skulls again, but from far to close. I want to go full screen here just to show you guys that it goes from far to close. Now, whenever the first skull hits Shang Tsung, just like the previous special move that Shujinko gets access to, it's always minus 32. However, if he gets hit by the middle one, it's minus 12. And if he gets hit by the last one, you're going to see that it's plus 8. But in saying that, if you do that while you are close to him, there's obviously a huge gap, right? That he can just punish you with. And if he does forward 4, that gets him out of the way of the last ground skull, so he can keep comboing you. So just remember, no matter which version of down, back Kameo, down or up is the follow-up, if the first projectile hits, it's minus 32. If the second projectile hits, it's minus 12. And if the last projectile hits and he doesn't do anything about it, it's plus 8. So do keep that in mind. And you do use this move for most of your mid-screen combos if you're not already using the Kameo that Shang has access to. Now we get access to one more move, which is down forward Kameo. You can see that it is a high projectile, so the further you move back, the more the frame data changes. The more plus it is, the less minus it is. But up close, you're going to see it starts up at 28 frames and is minus 9 on block. Doing this move after forward Kameo or back Kameo makes it start up in 18 frames and changes it to minus 8 on block. So a little bit less minus. Now it is a high projectile, so I'm sure you guys are wondering if it jails on block. So after back Kameo, it does a jail on block, and no, it does not. This can be simply punished. Pretty sure you can do a forward 4. Yeah, there you go. And yeah, he can do his, I'm pretty sure that's his highest combo starter, unless it's standing 4 or something like that. So you don't want to be using this move in full pressure in any sort of way, because it does not jail. Now, technically one more option, but it's technically 2 more options. And this move has the option to be held down. And you can see it ends up being 3 projectiles. If you do this up close, it sends him further back and is minus 8. Obviously, I showed you guys that if you do it like this, there's a gap, so he can just duck and punish. And if you do it like this, it doesn't jail, so he can just duck and punish. So this isn't really applicable. It's just to show you guys that you can hold the Kameo button down and it does multiple projectiles up to a maximum of 3. You can also hold it down so it only does 2, if you please. But you can do 1, you can do 2, and you can do 3. Just like Shang can. So that's what you have access to with Shujinko against Shang Tsung. Not the best use of Shujinko, if I'm totally honest. Especially with Liu Kang, the combos really suck. You're not getting a lot of damage out of this, and you're not getting any sort of pressure out of it either, which is really poor. So I don't highly recommend using it, Shujinko and Liu Kang against Shang, but if you want to, you can. But something that you do get to do is flex your big brain if you get to use Shujinko with any main character against Shang and his own Kameo. So yeah, use it if you want, just to flex on a player for sure. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Now we're going to talk about Shujinko against Sindel. Sindel gives access to 4 unique moves to Shujinko. First one obviously being down, back Kameo. You can see that it starts up in 16 frames and is minus 25 on block. So you do not want to be hitting this on block, that is for sure. If you do this move after front or back Kameo, you guys are going to see that it starts up in 9 frames. So extremely quick, but it's still minus 25 on block. Not much to talk about with this move. There is no interruptible gap, there is no harmable gap. No matter how you do it, you could even do it like this and there's no gap that you could armor through. It's just minus on block, punishable. But this move is your main combo starter and main combo extender. Now we move on to the next one, which is down forward Kameo. Down forward Kameo is a high projectile. It's 30 frames on startup and -7. Obviously, it being a projectile, the further back you move, the less minus it is, the less minus it is, and the more plus it is. You guys can see if you do this move after front or back cameo, it changes the frame data to -8 and 10 frames faster startup at 20 frames. Now, this is a high projectile, so I'm sure you guys are wondering whether it jails on block. So after back cameo, it does not jail on block, which means it can be ducked. It doesn't have a lot of active frames, so it can easily be punished by Sindel. I'm sure she has higher damaging punishes, but Sindel players can always figure that out. Moving on to our next move, we have down forward cameo down. And this is the low projectile you get. You see it starts up in 26 frames and is -5 on block. If you do this move after front or back cameo, you're going to see that it doesn't change the startup frames and is -7 on block. But from this distance, Sindel cannot punish. This starting up in 26 frames, even after the front or back cameo input, means that there is a gap that Sindel can interrupt with 1-1 after back or front cameo to interrupt the gap. But if she doesn't feel like doing that, she can always armor through it, of course. If she blocks the low projectile after everything, it is -7 with a bit of pushback, which means you do lose your turn, but she can't punish you from this range because she is not a 6-frame character. And yeah, that's pretty simple. Just remember that it is a projectile, so it is dependent on range as well. And the last move that Shujinko gets access to is down forward cameo up. And this is by far the most interesting move you do get. However, it is extremely hard to use as Shujinko compared to Sindel. Down forward cameo up gives you access to Sindel's Queen's command, which lets you disable her cameo from being used and recharged. If you time the input on where she goes to use a cameo against you, and then you hit her with the Queen's command, you can see that it starts up in 21 frames, and it kind of has to be a read that she is going to use a cameo move. But a cameo like a Chameleon, for example, uses raw cameo moves by herself all the time. So this is kind of a better example than most. So you guys are going to see that Sindel is going to throw Jade's glaive at me, and I'm going to read that it's going to happen. I'm not going to react, I'm going to read that she's doing this, and you guys will see what happens. You can see that she gets stunned for 4 seconds. She cannot build cameo meter during this time. She stays stunned on screen during this time, and she cannot use any moves, obviously, because she is stunned. This move, like I showed you, cannot be done on reaction. Like, if you do, I guess you're just a god of the game. But, like, you just don't have enough startup frames, in my opinion, to even command him to do it. If it started up in 10 frames, I'm sure you could use this on reaction. But until they change the move, or if they even do, this move will have to be a hard read, for sure. As you can see, it also doesn't stun Sindel in any type of form. It just stuns her cameo. So keep that in mind. Do I recommend that you use Shujinko against Sindel? Nah, not really. I mean, the combos are okay. The projectiles you get are pretty mediocre. And the only fun move, the remotely fun move that you can even get is Sindel's Queen's command. But it's so slow on startup that it has to be a read. If it started up in 8 or 10 frames, it'd be really cool. That way you could react and then stop her from using her cameo, and it'd be like so fun to mess with Sindel's own cameo just like that. But unfortunately that's not the case, and yeah, I don't really recommend using Shujinko against Sindel. On to the next one. So now we move on to Shujinko against Smoke. Smoke gives Shujinko access to 3 of his moves, and off the bat, I just want to say that you really don't get a lot of value out of Shujinko against Smoke, but we're going to go over it anyway. So the first move you get is Down Back Kameo, and it is not an attack, and it is not a combo extender like you would believe with most other characters. Back Kameo gives you access to Smoke's invisibility, and if you were wondering why you didn't get access to Reptile's invisibility, well, here you go, because you get it with Smoke. You can see it happens pretty fast. It's 18 frames, which is not literally the quickest move in the game or anything, but it happens pretty quickly. All I can say is that the invisibility only lasts 3.5 seconds from the end of the startup, and then you show up. It's not a very long time. You have to sacrifice damage, to set it up in the first place. And you basically get like one mix-up out of it, which will be a third strike mix-up. Because you're Liu Kang, right? You're not going to hit him with a low or an overhead startup. So I'm sure the invisibility will prove suit for other characters. Just like Smoke himself, that's why he has it. But with Liu Kang, I don't recommend using it, and it's a bit of a waste of a slot with him. Just real quick, I wanted to mention that if you cancel from Forward Kameo into Back Kameo at basically the end of your combos, you get a 10 frame startup on your invisibility, so that's a bit of a quicker way to get your invisibility out. Next, you get access to Smoke's anti-air with Down Forward Kameo. This move also starts up in 18 frames. As you can see, it doesn't even hit Smoke, even though he goes through his neck, basically. It only hits opponents in the air. This move is okay to get some extra damage out of combos that you otherwise wouldn't, and literally, to get that damage at the end of your combo. Obviously, if you do this move after front or back Kameo, this move ends up starting up in 10 frames. Now, when you use the down forward Kameo at the end of your combos, you notice that when Smoke does it and he enhances it, he pulls you down to the ground and then he pulls you closer towards him. This is not the case with your version. You do half Kameo meter for a down forward Kameo input. You guys are going to see what it looks like. I do a combo here, and as you can see, it only leaves him at the place he would have ended up on the screen anyway. He doesn't get pulled any closer into you like Smoke's enhanced version. So do keep that in mind when using it at the end of combos. Now we move on to down forward down Kameo, or down forward Kameo down, I should say. And this gives you access to Smoke's smoke bomb move. I don't like to call it smoke bomb because it's actually not what smoke bomb is, but whatever, I've just got to deal with it. You can see that this move starts up in 9 frames. It's pretty quick startup and it's +2 on block. However, this doesn't account for the frames at which he flies over Smoke. It only accounts for the time that he gets to me and then throws a smoke bomb. By the time he throws a smoke bomb, there is a gap in between that, and then he hits them and then it ends up being +2. Doing this move after front or back Kameo does not change the frame data properties in any way, and this move, like I said, has a gap as he flies over Smoke here, so no matter how I do it, and this can be punished in multiple ways. You guys can see that I can punish him with 1-1, with forward 1. I can also punish him with 2-1 if I want. I can also punish him with forward 3-4. It's a bit of a tighter timing, but you can do it. I've tested this before. There we go. So there are some options to punish the gap. Do I recommend that you use smoke? That you use Shujinko against smoke? Absolutely not. This Shujinko just does basically almost nothing against smoke. It's pretty pathetic. The moves he gets is abysmal. And if NRS, you're watching this, please give Shujinko another move of smokes. Or just make the moves that he has better. Because he needs something else against smoke. And all the stuff that you've given him so far just sucks. And yeah, I highly advise you don't use Shujinko against smoke. You have so many better options. And yeah, on to the next move, on to Shujinko against Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero gives you access with Shujinko to 4 of his moves. Some of them are okay, some of them are not okay, but let's get into it. First thing I want to say is Down Back Kameo gives you access to Ice Ball. You can see it starts up in 41 frames and is minus 11 on block. Just remember, Ice Ball is a high and the projectile, so it is dependent on the range. The further back you go, the less minus and the more plus it ends up being on block. And if you cancel it after front or back Kameo, you guys will see that it starts up in 31 frames rather than 41 frames, so 10 frames faster. It is a high projectile, so I'm sure you guys are wondering whether it jails on block. And the answer to this is no. It does not jail on block, it can be ducked and it can be punished. Something that I find really funny about this is really weird. Sub-Zero can't punish usually off his Ice Ball in this game, but Shujinko, the man that steals his Ice Ball, can. So yeah, think of that what you will, but yeah. Also, the Ice Ball is your main grounded combo starter / extender, which you guys will see in the optimal combo video. Moving on, we have Down Back Kameo Down, which is Sub-Zero's slow motion move on you. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a crappy ground puddle, basically. Anyway, it starts up in 34 frames and is minus 3 on block. Now, if you do this move after front or back Kameo, you're going to see that it doesn't change the frame data in any way, which means Sub-Zero, being a 7 frame character, can punish the gap after front or back Kameo, or if you do a raw, just like this. So he can also just punish the gap if he wants with 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 4, back 3, 4, and 4. And yeah. So if the Sub-Zero player is a bit slow and they get caught out by it, you can continue the combo, of course, and it's minus 3, so you're completely safe, but there is a gap, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. So here it is, we got 1, 2, we have 2, 1, we also have 3, 4, we have back 3, 4, of course, and we have 4, which is, yeah, like so slow. But yeah, all of these things can punish him. Moving on to the next move is Down Forward Kameo, which gives you access to Sub-Zero's slide. This starts up in 20 frames, so it's not bad, it's not terrible either. And you can see it's minus 28 on block, which means it is fully punishable by Sub-Zero. Doing this move after front or back Kameo does change the startup frames by 10 frames, so it does, you know, end up being a lot quicker. You're still going to get punished on block for this move, so you're only going to really use it to end combos because it's being minus 28, and this move does go full screen just like the regular Sub-Zero slide. As you can see, it is minus 14, which means Sub-Zero actually can't punish your slide from full screen. So if he tries to return with a slide himself, you can block it and punish him if he thinks he is cheeky or he doesn't know the matchup that well. So use that to your favor, of course. And we move on to our last move, which is Down Forward Kameo Up. This gives you access to a mid projectile and that is Sub-Zero's crappy clone projectile in this game. You can see that it starts up in 20 frames and is -7 up close. Obviously it is a projectile, so the further back you move, the less minus and the more plus it is. However, as you can see, it doesn't go full screen. It only, like, if you're from full screen and you dash in once, this is basically the range that you can hit him with the projectile. Remember, it is a mid, so he has to eat it. He can't just duck it or anything like that. And it is pretty hard to jump over because the move travels across the screen very quickly. But if he sees Shujinko, he can see that he can just always just jump over it. Doing this move after front or back Kameo does not change any of its frame data properties. And although it is 20 frames in startup and -7, if Sub-Zero wanted to punish this move, he can armor through it. So you guys will see, it's a mid projectile, so his only option is to armor through it. He cannot interrupt the gap. Other than that, he literally has to eat it, and he can't punish because it's a 7-frame character and it's -7 with a little bit of pushback as well close up. So completely safe against Sub-Zero on block. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Shujinko against Sub-Zero. Also another very simple character, like Scorpion for example and Melina. But do I advise that you use Shujinko against Sub-Zero? Yeah, if it's fun. I will say that it's fun that you get to use the ice ball in combos and the mid projectile on block. But is it the best thing you could use against Sub-Zero? Absolutely not. There are way better options. But if, like I said, if you're looking for something fun to use against Sub-Zero, Shujinko is that. But if you're looking for something that's really good against Sub-Zero, probably better off using a different Kameo. But yeah, that's pretty much it, and we'll move on to the next one. The last one. Finally reached the final breakdown of the video, which is going to be Shujinko against Tanya. If you guys have stuck around for this long, thank you so much for watching. I'm sure you guys have learned a lot from this video. Now, in saying that, Tanya gives access to Shujinko 3 of her moves, 3 unique moves, and they go as follows. The first move is Down Kameo. You can see that it is a mid, and it starts up in 26 frames and is -18 on block. So there is a gap if you use it like this. However, if you use the move after front or back Kameo, the move does change to a 19 frame starter, which means it no longer has a gap and you can't even armor through it, I'm pretty sure. Another thing that I did want to mention is this move can travel full screen. So for whatever reason, if your Tanya player just gets caught doing an input at full screen or something, or they just didn't block in time, for example, you can chuck a Down Kameo and you can always get a full screen conversion. I'm pretty sure you can dash up and get a punish as well if you're quick enough. Yeah, you can. That would be a standing 4 into bicycle kick or dancing dragon, as they call it in this game. But yes, there are also full screen conversions as well with this move. And this move, you basically don't use it on block, and it's a good combo starter / extender. The next move you get access to is Down Kameo up. You're going to see that it is a high and starts up in 14 frames and is also -14 on block. So very easy for you to remember what it is on block because it's the same as the frame data on startup. If you do this move after front or back Kameo, you guys will see that it doesn't change the frame data properties in any way. This is a high, right? So I'm sure you guys are wondering whether it jails on block or not. So after back Kameo does a jail, it does. Even though it is a high, it does catch you out. Now, if you obviously just block the move, you can easily punish Liu Kang, it being -14. I think 2 is a very easy punish from this distance. Yeah, it is. It just has a very long block stun on it. So if you're going to punish it, just wait a bit, and then you can get that easy 2 punish on the main character they're using Shujinko with. One thing I wanted to mention is don't use this move as an anti-air. I know you see Tanya use it, Tanya players use it sometimes, but this being 14 frames, even though it's pretty quick, it still has to be a read basically, because the active frames don't last long and they don't come out as fast. So you trying to anti-air her will just end up on reaction getting Shujinko just kicked in the face, literally. Obviously if you do it as a read, you're going to see that it does anti-air her and you can get a conversion off that, but it's not the most consistent thing in the world, so I highly advise just using your own anti-air as Liu Kang, or if you're playing another main character, use that instead. And this move is used for certain combos only. You guys will see in the optimal combos where you can use it optimally, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this move. And the last move we're going to talk about is down Forward Kameo, which is a high projectile. You can see it starts up in 30 frames and is only -5 on block. If you do this move after forward or back cameo, you can see that startup frames change to 23 frames and it becomes -6 on block, which is still not punishable by Tanya because she is a 7 frame character. And if she had a 6 frame, she wouldn't be able to punish it anyway. You guys can see that it is a high projectile, so I'm sure you're wondering whether it jails on block. So after back cameo does a jail on block, it does not. It's a very simple punish as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Tanya. And do I recommend that you use Shujinko against Tanya? No, not really. The combos are pretty fun, I guess, but the fact that the high projectile doesn't jail after back cameo is a bit of a disappointment. If it did, I would actually kind of recommend you use Shujinko against Tanya, but just because of this, you don't have another option basically. So yeah, I really don't recommend it, but if you want to use it and try it out, who's going to stop you, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have stuck around for this long, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys. I'm sure you guys have learnt a lot of new things in this video about Shujinko that you didn't know otherwise. And if you did learn something new, please like the video. Please comment if you have any questions to do with Shujinko or MK1 or Liu Kang. I promise you I will answer your question within the day. And if you're new here and you learned something, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. And we're on the road to 500 subs, so we can do some big things with the channel and bring you guys bigger content like I am today. I know this has taken a lot of my time and a lot of my effort, and I'm probably not going to get a lot of reward out of it, but this is a video that is for the long term in terms of the channel to help it grow. So yes, please do all the other stuff. If you guys are stuck around for this long, I really do appreciate you guys. And yeah, the combo video will come out next week after this video, and there will be, and if that 1 week has passed, top right hand corner of the screen right now, where you can just click onto it and you'll be able to just go straight to that right now. And that covers all of the combos with Liu Kang and Shujinko against every main roster fighter that was on the game, that was in the game on launch. Not Combat Pack 1 characters. I am working on a video. I'm also waiting for Takeda and Farah to come out. But when they do, I promise you guys, within a week or two, I will literally have the Shujinko Combat Pack 1 video out. And the breakdown and the combos for that will be in one video, guaranteed. You guys won't have to vote on that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. See yous.